Her face is in the shadows.
There you go. Yeah.
That's a little better.
There we go.
There we go.
Hey guys.
Sound check.
See if you
As you can see, I'm even uglier than usual.
Thanks, Gold Banner.
You know, when they say about a sinus headache, because your sinus has kind of got some pressure in it, mine's hydraulically inflated right now, so it's less than pleasant, but it's not horrible. Oh man, but anyhow, so
we got a pretty good crew already. So
nose check, yeah, it's there. I can tell you, it's still there, Rusty. Yep. So, didn't you read the thing on the? You just assumed that this time nothing underneath. Nosebleed. They got an inflatable bladder in there to keep it from getting in bar brawls. Man, you should see the other guy.
Yeah,
wait a minute, there was no other guy.
That's always a story.
Man,
if there's no pictures, it didn't happen, right?
I don't think Eva actually complained too much when I woke her up this morning. She wasn't happy, of course, but she wasn't complaining because
I got you dressed.
Yeah.
He goes running off to the hospital with a jacket, no shirt, in his socks. Okay.
Yep. That was it.
Yeah.
I was already wearing a jacket because it was kind of cold in here. I wasn't spraying, but I was dripping at about 2 or 3 drops per second, and it would not stop. So I had to do this, and I couldn't dress myself because I'm too busy controlling the bleeding. So he was trying to get my pants on me, and then we're ready to, go. And I'm like, okay. And she says, "Where's your?" She says, "Screw it." I just go into my socks. I got to just walk, 70 feet or something. And so, yeah, it was not exactly fun. Then I get to the hospital. I should have got that nose clip just for a souvenir. And so I put the clip on my nose. And then some other stuff happened. So, I had it for like about an hour on there. It was getting really uncomfortable, too.
Bet. Oh.
And then he says, "Okay, we'll take this off." He takes it off. Not even slowed down at that point. It just opened right back up again. He goes, "Okay, let me put this back on. We're going to have to put nasal packing? Is that what he called it?"
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's an long, skinny, inflatable pack. Blood pressure was what? 135 over 90?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. Not nothing excessive at all. Hi, Rock. Hi, Mr. Lodak.
Hello to everybody.
And so then he shoves this thing up my nose, and it made a COVID test seem pleasant.
Looks like a tampon for rabbits.
Yeah. And he shoves that up there.
And then inflate it.
I'm squealing like a pig. And then I was cursing a bit too. Finally gets it in far enough and then inflates it. Wow. Yeah, that was not my idea of a fun morning, but it is holding back the blood. So tomorrow I think I'm supposed to call my physician's assistant. Yeah. I ought to get Eva to show you a picture of the sink just so you can gloat and laugh.
I told Parrish, looked like you done been stabbed.
Yeah, that just make his day. By the way, that was a very, very cute picture of Adora. That's Eva's cat. One of the two that are down there. That was really good. And so, yeah, Adora and Pixel looked like Pixel laying on his back. Yeah, that's Pixel for you. But, and it still just kind of seeps a little bit around this thing. So keep it from dripping down my nose here. I had a really bad nosebleed this morning that wouldn't stop. So I've got a bladder up my nose that's inflated right now to stop the bleeding until go in to see a specialist in the next couple of days. Yeah, just not much fun. Wow, man, that sounds like fun, Rusty. I was afraid they probably did something like got a piece of stick, lit the end on fire, and then blew to hard cold.
Yeah, to sear it.
Yeah. That's the inflation tube. See, right here, they take a syringe full of hydraulic fluid, in this case, normal saline probably, and just inject it in there.
Inflate it.
Inflate it. Yeah. And yeah, it feels about as good as you think it does.
Wait till they extract it.
Shut up! Shut up! Well, what does the other guy look like? I don't know. I never saw him. I was sitting in front of the computer, minding my own business, and all of a sudden, things are starting to get wet. Yep. No, it isn't bleeding. If it was, I'd be in the hospital because I would have died by now if they hadn't been able to stop it. Seriously,
I lost about a quarter of a cup of blood.
Yeah, I mean, I would have lost probably a pint an hour at that rate. You know.
Yeah, your nose can bleed bad.
Yeah, I mean, it can be life-threatening, but as long as you can get to medical care, there's no reason they can't stop it. I mean, you know, the ENT, ear, nose, throat guy, he'll take a look at what's going in there and then use a little electrocautery or whatever
That's what my guess is.
to fry some
they'll
stuff,
cauterize it
and then it'll be okay, except for the excruciating pain for a while. You're glad they don't have to amputate your nose. Yeah, Zioxio. Smart Alec. Yeah, well, I'm not as good as I once was either, Rock. Oh, yeah. Eva did a great job, though, as usual.
You're just trying to give me gray hair. That's what's going on here.
Just
she
hearts keep breaking.
She gets flustered when I'm hurt, you know. And we got to the hospital, and I don't know if he's a physician. I don't know. The attending person, whoever he was basically saying, you know, well, I tried the cautery, so what we're going to do is we'll just do this. And Eva could tell that the whole thing wasn't, we're going to get this thing fixed right now.
Yeah.
She wasn't happy with that. So she was having a discussion with him, and I could tell this was going to go nowhere. And finally, I had to be rude and just say, little one, shh,
back off.
because it's just
couldn't pull off the dog.
Say it's not going to do any good. And that was it. But I mean, she was in mama bear mode. Yep. Yeah, Zioxio, there's supposed to be like a record-breaking meteor shower tonight too, on the other side of the impenetrable cloud deck. You know. They didn't even ask me that question, Gold Miner, although they quite often do. You know, when they let you, but I mean, they didn't do the normal triage thing with me this time. I went straight from telling them, sitting down in the waiting room, and then right to the back. But usually they will do that, you know. Oh, Lars, hook him up to a compressor. I'm curious.
100,000.
Yeah, Zioxio. I heard that might happen somewhere where we can't see it. Yeah. So, anyhow, we'll be. If any of you are where you can see the sky, please look out from time to time and let us know what we're missing up here. I'd appreciate it. Yeah. Good luck, Chris. And if it starts going, just say, "Hey, it's rocking. See you later." Okay? Because love all you guys and everything.
Grab a video camera.
Yeah.
Picture it didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very questionable. They don't know. My brother is driving about about 60 miles east from Yuma to a place called Dateland, where he's going to kind of camp out.
Yeah.
It's not high. It's just Dateland population 20.
Right, get away from the light.
And the nearest metro area from there is Welton, which is 30 miles away, population 1,000. You know? Oh, well, that might make sense, except I've been having nosebleeds for 2 months, not just since the beat explosion, but yeah, that's a possibility. And so anyhow, so Eva's been doing a great job out there doing her thing while I've been doing the mill expansion, muscle work, getting some great exercise. Got it done just in time. Saturday afternoon, got the everything covered and the tarps tied down and everything. I didn't quite get everything configured the way I wanted, but I've been working 8 hours Saturday already.
Yeah.
So he left, then wake up Sunday morning, and it was coming down pretty good. So I went out back there and spent about 10 minutes doing the things I should have done the night before to fix all the little details. But it's in good shape there, and Eva's been doing a great job in the lab. That bead was something else. It literally just
pretty
exploded.
Impressive for running.
I don't
cleaning stuff.
Well, not just that, but when I was pounding that one, when it blew, it blew. Well, that sounds fine, Chris. I've never had it happen before like that. I've had some
it did
pop, but yeah. Around here, we're all gold diggers, AZ. And answer to that, no, not really. We had a quick exchange of emails, and I sent him some information and questions, and I haven't seen anything since then, Rock. I presume he's busy or doing research or whatever. I think that's exactly what happened, Chris. That thing was way too tough, and when it went, it just literally exploded.
Yeah.
So that's basically, I'm sure, what happened. There's a fairly small amount of slag in a cold conical mold, and I'm sure the outside froze and the inside did its thing, and and that is exactly what the phenomenon that happened. The weird thing was it didn't have a tail. It was, as you saw, it was all around,
kind of round, yeah.
And so it didn't have that point. With the Prince Rupert draw, all you do is break the tail and it just shatters.
Right.
But this thing was just tougher than bejesus. And when it went, unfortunately, the little piece of gold went that away, But yeah, it was pretty impressive there. And luckily nobody got hurt. I was wearing my safety glasses whenever I'm bashing that stuff I do. But yeah, that was pretty good. The Canthal heating elements seem to be perhaps a little softer at the same temperatures as the other stuff. I had more sag than I expected that I had to fix. I'm looking, you watch AVE2, Zioxio. And the oven, I think what I'm going to do is maybe cut horizontal channels, and I've got some 1/2-inch sheet now too of that foam insulation board, and turn it to horizontal channels for the heating element, so it's all supported.
Yeah,
and that might work. Lars says I invented a Prince Keith ball. Huh? No, that's what you call a bear ball, because when you hit that sucker, things go wild. Yeah. I don't know if it was hollow or not. It definitely was hard and shatters. Yeah. Hello, SB Thor. Yeah, pretty much. So anyhow,
It was a good video.
Yeah, the Eva's been reading that assay book,
Yeah.
and so because she's a smart girl, and I don't know that much about it, and she says, "Well, I want to try this. Well, I want to try that," and I'm like, unless there's a good reason not to,
right?
or I don't have something more urgent, it's like, okay, give it a shot,
Yep.
you know. And I will say that, hello, William, the flux that she remixed, she had some used flux and she added some other stuff. What did you add, little one?
I added the usual things that we've been adding according to the book, but I went by the proportions that the dude was talking about in the book. The only thing I don't have yet is potash. I need potash.
Yeah.
Book says so.
And
no idea what for.
What's the spot price in the USA? Borax? For anhydrous borax, I believe it's about $65 for a 50-pound sack over at Chemical, Montana, when I checked about a month or two ago.
You're not using that damn much.
Well, Lauren and I talked it over. Once I get approval from the boss, I've been working on the
buy a 50-pound bag.
Buy a 50 and split it, and go halvies on it.
Yeah.
Kind of like what we did with the wire. I bought him a spool, and then he reimbursed me for that one, and the boss reimbursed me for the other one. Spot price of gold. What's the spot price of gold?
Getting it right now.
Yeah. The tinfoil hat got us.
Gold is $18.51.50. Spot of silver is $21.89.
Okay. So what Mr. Lodak says, plus $21.89 for silver. And
he was watching it. He had it right there.
And anyhow, so I say she's looking for some potash. But again, I have a feeling that's one of those, well, you're going to pay a whole lot of price for it, or
I think you could get a small.
Well, you can, but I bet you it's like
I'm sure.
I think we were actually looking for that. It was like $2 a pound or something, for a 5-pounder. But anyhow, potash is cheap, but not in small quantities over the internet. Sin might have it at a reasonable price. Sin the sizer, he's also a chemical salesman.
Oh, okay.
So if you need something, I can
talk to him,
get a price quote from him. But anyhow, so let's say the amount of gold that she's recovering from the slags and crucibles is approximately equal to the amount of gold we're losing from the maximum recovery we've ever done off of any of those things. Some of it may be because of, say, these new slags that she's making are thinner, very thin, very watery. About like antifreeze, clearly thicker than water, but not much, Potassium carbonate is what she's looking for. I believe that's potash. But anyhow, she wants potassium carbonate. I suppose it works a little different than sodium carbonate, which is soda ash, which is
the book says we need it.
Well,
and our cupels are inferior.
She is not happy with the quality of the cupels from Pioneer, Chris. It's just not up to the spec of the book. It's supposed to ring when you hit them.
They do not ring. They thunk.
And they also crack occasionally, which is
they crack
very annoying.
Very often, and the bowl isn't the right depth.
Yeah. So anyhow, Lauren says he's got some. I've also got your connectors and a bag of that cereal for Clara, and absolutely, Rock. And Yeah, an assayer at our local place.
There isn't one.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
There
Can you use anhydrous potash? I'm sure.
Hello,
Absolutely,
Paul.
Jeff. Hello, Paul. But anyhow, so she's having a good time. She's enjoying her researches and learning.
Well, you just pulled some gold that you didn't
Hey,
have
Tricky.
before. That's pretty neat.
And that, I'll explain, it still doesn't seem to get us above, up into the range where the theoretical amount was. But we'll see. Once we get some new resin loaded, then we can blend it and do. Another thing that we found too is nosebleed, Paul. Nothing serious, but it just wouldn't stop. So they've got a inflatable bladder.
It looked like we had a serial killer in our kitchen.
It looked like a crime scene.
It did in the sink, I will admit. I've butchered deer and seen less blood in one spot. 20 mule team is hydrous borax. Absolutely, it will kind of fluff and foam on you.
It'll expand
it fluffs in the oven when you try and dry it. Boy, it's really cool.
It'll expand like styrofoam beads.
Yeah, it does. It expands a lot.
Gets pretty excited.
So it's not very good. Shot by a gold button. See, somebody else figured that one out too. Yeah, good one, John. But anyhow, so once we get some new stuff, but as we were looking at the resin, as she was roasting it, it seemed to me, first of all, the resin beads don't look the same color. You got some that are like shiny gold. I mean, they look like a gold bead, and others look more like a matte and this and that. And the little small beads seem to be almost pure gold, while the larger beads seem to be different. So what we're going to see is if we can visually identify a size bead that's acting differently than others, then we might be able to size it and see what the loading factor is, and if it's simply just a surface phenomenon, whether it really is something where some of those beads, for whatever reason, do a much better job of gathering gold than others.
Well, that'd be my thought.
And we'll have to see what that is. But Eva has just loads of research on her mind while I get the mill done. And then, of course, she's always the extra pair of hands when I need her, which has been a few times lately. Let's make a thing here. By beads, you mean the resin beads? Not yet. Although we are going to try as an experiment with the next set of loaded resin while it's still wet is to put it in a blender while it's wet and see what happens. How much litharge are we using per charge? For 10 grams of dried resin, we're usually using 60 grams of litharge, and it is all getting reduced to lead. And that is not the way it should be. You should have litharge left over in the flux instead of it all being reduced to lead. And so we shall see. Now, that's another thing we're trying to figure out. We're hoping we can figure out a way to ash the resin so that we get rid of that reduction potential before fluxing it and actually smelting the resin. And if we can do that, then we can flux a lot more resin at the same time. We're also going to be getting into some elution experiments where we're trying to strip the resin and basically reactivate it so that we can put it back in circuit and reuse it. While financially it's not that critical because the gold in the resin is 100 times the value of the resin itself. So not a huge thing. But I think that the stripping, we can do larger volumes a lot faster, Yeah, the idea is on the stripping, you need to mobilize the gold from the resin and then electroplate the gold out of that solution.
Right.
And in mobilizing the gold, you've got chemistry in terms of various ions that you're trying to exchange on the resin for the gold. You can use pH to change the characteristics of the loading, unloading of the resin. And you also have potentially electrochemistry where you use an electric potential to drive the gold off. And in the next week or so, I'm going to be setting up a little electrochemical cell. I've got 10 little carbon rods. And my plan was to take some half-inch copper tubing and drill holes for the carbon rods, and then 90 degrees to that, drill and tap 1/4 inch, and just buy some brass screws
and lock them
and
together.
so that it clamps it, and I'll have a carbon rod array
right.
where the metal is above the liquid, so
Okay.
it's not going to get corroded. And then I can just have a little cell where I can dip those in there, and we're also going to use it to try and electroplate the silver out of the parting solution of the parting acid.
Yep.
It should work pretty well, because if you've got your parting acid pretty well spent, in other words, it's dissolved so
Right.
much silver, there's very little
Right.
nitric left,
Yeah.
then you should be able to just electroplate it
out.
directly out of
Pull it
that. It's
out,
basically silver nitrate then. And so that's the idea. Yeah. So that's, and the silver. Oh, I'm sure the fumes would too, Chris. Absolutely. Um, we shall see what we shall see. Everything's going to be so cheap, except for the carbon. It's going to be, it could be sacrificial, but yeah. And so I say, well, we'll be using the electro winning cell for both. Yeah, we use steel wool at my mine too for maximum surface area. In this case, for the testing, I'll just use the carbon, because that means whatever you collect is basically pure. And you just scrape it off of the cathode theoretically. We shall see, but we can use that both to recover the silver and to try and electro win the gold out of the resin. Well, as I say, we can use it for a number of experiments. And we still haven't figured out exactly what the first stripping chemistry we want to use is. You know, we're still looking around. Oh, you betcha, Chris. Still got the titanium mesh. I don't know if that. The problem with that as a cathode is it's going to plate onto it, and it's a complex surface. If it'll work as an anode without corroding, that would be pretty simple. But we shall see what we shall see. Yeah, I got plenty of titanium mesh. So we shall see what we shall see. Eva is really wanting to do the electrowinning out of the resin, because theoretically it will form gold crystals. And we'll see how well it does this.
Well, I also want to build one of those chambers like Sweet Tips uses, so that I can make silver crystals.
That's what we're doing. Okay. Sulfuric acid. I'm not sure what the best will be for the resin. Well, I don't have carbon sponge handy, and I'm in a research phase. I'm looking more just so I can visually identify what's going on. Yeah, I would too, Zioxio. Got access to one? I can send you a sample, or maybe even bring it on over there. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that rock. The main thing is, the reason we're parting is to find out exactly how much gold we got in the bead. And so we have to use enough silver to make sure that we can part the bead. So we have to add silver, which Prospector Trip has sent me some more. We did a little trade for some small gold beads there. Uh, We'll see, Chris. We'll discuss it in details probably this week because this is not something I'm going in the field
Slow
with.
you down a little bit.
You know,
Wounded again.
yeah. I'm glad this didn't happen when we were out at the mine. You know, so this has temporal priority. I got to get this thing fixed first. As long as we're at the ranch, it's not that far into town. But out at the mine, yeah, it would be a while to get to the nearest hospital. That would probably be. They have a hospital at Three Forks?
No.
No.
Nope.
So probably
Bozeman.
Butte or Bozeman.
Bozeman.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yep. All the way back to here.
Oh, I was thinking some Eco Goldex would probably take care of it. Chris, you smart aleck. But anyhow, so that's kind of our evil plan here. Yeah, cyanide works great on a commercial spot. It's also illegal in this state. So, you know, do you have your lifeline card? Not yet, Chris. We do need to get one though. That's for sure.
We need to find somebody that sells life flight insurance in this state. Our insurance agent doesn't.
Yeah, that might work, Sioxio. Yeah, we went to our insurance agent and asked, and he had no idea who sells it. So I'm not sure what the deal is.
Check right at the hospital.
Yeah, they might know.
Yeah, they might know.
They're the fire or one of the fire department guys, down at the main.
Rock Butcher, I think you can use cyanide in a precious metal cell, and by carefully adjusting the voltage, you can selectively plate the gold. I believe that's how it works. Yeah. Garmin sells life flight, Zioxio thinks. I'm not
Worth
sure.
Looking up.
Who was it? Schwendy had a thing. He's got a new Garmin that it had some interesting capabilities.
Rescue button on it. Push it.
Well, it's not just a rescue button, but I think it also has a text to orbit thing where you can actually
Satellite,
text. Yeah. 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 So there's some really interesting tech out there. Luckily, at the mine, we've got cell coverage, which is pretty hilarious. Not at the ranch, 8 miles from town, but at the mine, 60 miles from town. There we got cell coverage.
And you're up higher or something.
Yeah, I imagine it'd be expensive to text with it, but I would imagine if you're texting on your German for rescue, you don't care how expensive it is. And probably they have insurance to cover it too. If you want to pay an extra $10 a month for the service, you get up to so many letters per month free.
Probably. I'm sure there's some limit.
Yep. $1 per text or so. Oh, that's not bad. Jesus, when your life is on the line.
Yeah, if you're in the middle of nowhere.
Gee, should I spend $1 for my life? I don't know. But anyhow, so as I still getting ready, but the mill is supposedly tomorrow. We're gonna load up another batch in there. Grind up another 1,000 pounds of ore. The
Yeah, Chris.
The RC-46 is running, and what's his name? Lauren hard-faced a couple of my wear plates there. Did a great job. Really beautiful.
That's
tight, hard-facing spacing and stuff. He's a little concerned that they may be brittle and they may break because it's an alloy steel.
Well, you'll find out, I guess, right?
Senior RV insurance, helicopters included. Ooh, that sounds. Um, but anyhow, so we should be reprocessing again now. We should have all the equipment ready. The mill, the pad has been expanded a bit, and start cranking that out. We were planning on going out to mine later this week, but with this, who knows?
Yeah, we got a lot of rain here the last couple of days, and it kind of changed things a little bit here for a time.
Paul says that with a $69 annual membership, Life Flight Network members pay no out-of-pocket expenses for medically necessary evacuation. Yeah, for any of their network flights. Yeah, Chris. Right now, we're the hold of service is hey, and since Eva's 12 feet up, it's not hard.
No,
But
in line of sight, walkie-talkies will work. It's just straight up and down or whatever. You'll get.
We're going to be so close for the foreseeable future that just
you can
simple.
Yell.
Yeah, well, even just talk. Yeah. I mean, how far can you hear somebody when it's relatively quiet? I mean, it's the generator running down the hill. You'd have to raise your voice, but not much. Well, let's hope we're digging that deep, Chris. That means we're finding more ore.
Yeah, right. Getting to the good ore.
Yeah, and that's not politically correct nowadays, John. Yeah, so you could do that, Rock. I remember when I worked underground, we were a pretty good sized underground mine. We had 1,000 people working there.
Yeah.
And they had some dedicated mine phones, at the shop and the this and the that you could get to. But in general, there wasn't any distance communication available, which is why the fire alarm was a 1-quart bottle of Penalert down the shaft. Stuff they put in natural gas.
Yeah.
1 quart of the liquid. Throws it down the shaft, and all of a sudden the whole mine starts smelling.
Out. Yeah, you can smell that.
I say it starts smelling like natural gas, the odorant.
Yep.
And that means get the hell out. Yeah, so there's lots of possibility. Right now, it's so small. It is not a problem at this point. The farthest distance from surface to bottom of mine is 120 feet, something like that. Yeah, Zioxio, it's real simple, and the main thing is it gets everywhere as fast as the ventilation.
It's a smell you pick up on so quick too. That's
in underground uranium that I was working, we were moving like 100,000 cubic feet per minute of air.
Wow.
To keep the radon down.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you were at the shaft, it was a 15-mile-an-hour breeze coming down that shaft, and you could get it everywhere in the mine in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Good night, Thora. Well, that'd be fine, Rock, but what happens if you're not drilling at the time? It would probably depend on how good your ventilation is in the mine. Say in our case,
if you're exchanging air that fast, you'd have
underground uranium has to have a lot of flushing air to keep the radon down, and so it made a lot of sense. Whereas, say, if you were just running it into the compressed air, then if you're not using a tool in the heading you're in, you're not going to smell it. But the ventilation crews, they were busy. They had lots of fans, the big 100 horsepower axial fans and stuff. Oh yeah. So anyhow, got a lot of stuff done, but not much exciting this week. Eva came up with all the good stuff, and I'll say she's been doing a great job. I don't know about that, Zioxio. Not that much leaks. Interesting, Rock. So what did you do?
Not a lot. I got camper up on the mountain up at Dirty Goat Mining.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to kind of use that as a base a little bit to do a little hunting around. And at that point, it started raining for 2 solid days and snowing and sleeting and whatever. So the weather was absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
It was tolerable, but that's about it. And as far as getting it, got the 4-wheelers up there and got a bunch of stuff drug up on the mountain anyway. But we'll see what next weekend or later in the week brings.
Got your forward operating base.
Right. Yeah, I got
up,
ready. There was still snow above where we were, though. We went up with the 4-wheeler and charged through, I don't know, 1.5 feet of snow or so. So there was still some white stuff in the trees up there. And this morning it was white above us when we pulled out. The snow line was a couple 100 feet above us.
So the all clear is wintergreen. Huh?
That's cute. That's cool.
Did you get attacked by voice? I'm not sure precisely what that is, but no, Roberts, I had a bad nosebleed. This is what's keeping it from bleeding until they can get in there and fix it permanently.
You can brand him or something.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to just be fun.
Yeah.
I may have to sit there and tell them, you better tie me down or somebody's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Because I'm not that good at
the wooden dowel in your mouth.
Man, I tell you what. Nowadays, it's probably going to be a dildo or something. Politically correct bite tool, Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of, Rock. I'm afraid of something like that.
Go in there.
Nose cauterizations. But luckily, I've got a bad sense of smell, so it probably won't be too bad. But yeah, that would make sense. I'm thinking that anesthesia is in order here.
It might be on. Might keep you on the table a little bit longer.
Using a little height. Well, you got a lot of silver too, don't you? Or is that working on the gold? So the Jin Chan uses the sodium thiosulfate, I believe, right? A couple of stiff shots before the event.
Yeah.
I'm thinking some good drugs, personally.
Yeah, just put me out. Right?
Yeah. Last time I got, what was it for? Forgot what it was for. Oh, the endoscopy. They checked my esophagus.
Yeah.
That guy did it just perfect. I woke up clear-headed, wasn't feeling bad, no hangover, no nausea. And I do not know gold miner. You can ask Chris. He knows much more about the details than I do. I think he's even looked up like the patents or something.
Try to figure it out.
But I know that one of the things, once they do the initial mix on the chemicals, then they go and sinter it also. And so ayahuasca, okay. But anyhow, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm not a fan of pain. Not me.
No.
It's a complex combination of a bunch of common reagents that's then sintered at high temperature that turns it into other stuff that we don't know what it is.
Enjoy your ribs, Chris.
Yeah, keep an eye out the window too, Chris.
Yeah.
So
It won't be dark for a while.
yeah. Little one, do you want to? Ooh, nice. I like your thinking there, Kodak. Do you want to give them any insights on your fluxing procedures, little one?
Shortly.
Okay.
Give me just a minute here.
She will be.
Lars. I thought it was whiskey, Lars, or is it beer?
I don't know.
Or all of the above.
I think I've had morphine once IV. It helped, but it wasn't really that. My mom she'd get serious hallucinations on morphine.
Well, yeah, it can have some bad side effects.
I have no idea, gold miner. I don't know if it's just a gimmick or whether it actually has some functional purpose. Oh my goodness. Apparently we have some people who are harsh.
Yeah, they're quiet until they got their right comment, right?
Yeah. It was funny. There's this guy named Chris in Norway that, comments back and forth and stuff. And this guy was telling me how Biden is center right.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm like,
maybe for Norway.
If he's center right, then Tulsi Gabbard's got to be KKK, And he's like, well, for us people over here in Europe, Biden's center right. And I'm like, man, are you guys in trouble?
Yeah. This is not going to play well.
Wow. Yeah. If Biden is center right, wow.
Oh, well.
Dang, you
John,
guys mentioned food.
Yeah, food.
Yeah, that's right, man. Some of us eat. We had pizza tonight. Not him. I don't know what he had. Even I had pizza with a bunch of hamburger on it. Because hamburger's cheap right now. It's less than $2 a pound.
I had a couple of nice fresh ham sandwiches.
Take care, Tricky.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Tricky.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Little one, shortages of silver showing up yet?
Our local coin shop is still pretty good, but the premiums are climbing again, and a lot of online websites have low stock or sold out on the popular stuff.
When it comes to silver rounds and stuff, apparently they're still available, but the premiums are going up.
Anybody in the U.S. who wants buffalo rounds at a good price, go to Walmart.com. AppNext is selling tubes of buffaloes on Walmart. Cheaper than their website. Go figure.
Okay, so apparently you can buy silver rounds on Walmart now.
Yeah. Well,
that tells you something, doesn't it? I'm not sure what it is, but I'm afraid. I'm very afraid.
Yeah. You might want to test them when you get them.
Now they probably
They
be
come
good.
direct from AppNext.
Do they?
AppNext has
okay.
a portal on Walmart.
All right.
Very weird. Kind of like Amazon. Walmart is becoming an Amazon.
Zioxia wants 1 ounce Bunker Hill old vintage rounds. Really neat designs.
Good luck finding them.
Yeah.
I know what Eva wants. I don't know what the mint is now, but they're making Looney Tunes. And she wants Marvin the Martian and Bugs Bunny.
And they are way, way too expensive.
Yeah, the premium
Limited
sucks.
edition, serious premium stuff.
Oh, I
Yeah.
suppose it costs
They're
money
like
to coin them.
Twice melt value or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
Actually, it's like 4 times melt value.
Really? I thought they were like $50 each. They were 1 ounce rounds, weren't they?
Yeah. They may be only twice melt value, but some places they're up to 4.
I don't know, Rock.
It's getting hard to even find sterling.
Yeah,
in the
trying to
thrift
find it
stores
is what
here.
I'm thinking of. Yeah,
I did pick up some at garage sale here a while back.
that's good.
Yeah,
Um,
whole pile. But
I might like to
Someday I'll have to melt it all down.
buy a little bit from you to finish
Stir.
off my acid.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm pretty sure it's pretty well loaded, and I want to just neutralize the rest of the acid. That would be
Yeah, I
good.
found some butter knives and forks and
Yeah, because that would be good. Oh, oh my goodness. Yeah, this is fun.
yeah. Yeah, I bet. I can just imagine. I'd have such a pounding headache.
Oh, yeah, so I'm doing okay, but somebody's going to take a pain pill before he goes to bed tonight. Trust me on that one. That stupid nose clip is really getting uncomfortable after about 30 minutes.
Just that pressure right there would be enough to just drive me crazy.
Oh, it's
Heaven.
getting kind of painful. It's better bleeding to death, but you know. When you say tabling a bill, I think in Canada that means presenting it to Parliament,
Yep.
you know.
Stop all pistol sales.
Oh yeah, well, let's say when it comes to stuff, it's just getting ridiculous. I wish they'd just leave us all alone, but they won't. Darn it.
Nope. They're gonna come after us and keep harassing us.
Okay, Rock. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. That's it. They use every excuse they can think of or invent or cause to happen. It's all our fault. And I'm still wondering when the YouTube and stuff are going to censor President Biden for misinformation.
Never happened.
You know?
Yeah, never happened.
So anyhow, I'll say it's pretty good. The it's probably going to be next week before we get back to the mine, because I can work on that electrolytic cell and stuff too while they get this nose
Yeah,
fixed.
waiting for doctor visits.
Yeah, well, it's exactly at it.
Okay, I will give my report now.
Oh, Eva's ready to give her.
I was just busy
Smelting
giving a
report.
situation report to somebody on a prepper sub.
Now, she is likely to start doing this more frequently, giving lab reports and stuff.
Howdy, everybody. It is not tinfoil hat time, so my hat is not on. So, boy, have I had a week. First of all, I seem to have solved my slag problems when I am not working with the resin, because I am now getting slag that pours just like water. And at the very end, a beautiful little lead button just drops right out there, and my crucibles are getting clean. This is a good thing. Now, this happened in part because I decided to consult the book regarding slag samples to begin with, and I got kind of sidetracked to another part of the book, and it turned out that I had the wrong ratio of silica to borax. The book said that it's very important that you keep your borax and your silica in a 3-to-4 ratio. So I'm going to be playing with the ratios of that when I'm dealing with my resin, and I also want to start playing with some ore in a couple of weeks here.
Which one is 3 and which is 4?
The borax is 3 and the silica is 4. So if you have 3 grams of borax, you're supposed to have 4 grams of silica. Now, the other thing I discovered, by the way, is cupels are very, very specialized pieces of equipment, which I already knew, but I assumed that in this modern day and age, when one ordered cupels, one would get cupels that actually fit the definition of quality, precision piece of equipment. Boy, was I wrong. Just so you know, cupels, if they're proper cupels, when you tap them together, they're supposed to have a light metallic ring, like touching 2 wine glasses. Mine thunk. This is a bad, bad thing. They're not supposed to thunk, okay? Even after I dried them, they still thunk. Now, the cracking problem, according to the book, is probably because the cupels have a higher ratio of silica to the bone ash than they are supposed to have. If your cupels have too much silica in them, and it's supposed to be a fractional percentage here, then they will crack. So Of course, I already told Professor Hardrock we have to start looking for a vintage Q-Pel pressing machine, and I need some sheep bones because, yes, I want to make my own Q-Pels, okay? I mean, that's just one of those things here.
Have I mentioned she's a bit OCD?
What? I just want quality precision equipment. Now the other things, yes, I had heard that, Rock Butcher. The technology is that old, and apparently those old cast iron Q-Pel presses, you can size them to multiple sizes of Q-Pels, multiple depths of the bowl, multiple curvature of the depth there, and you can basically, once you're good with one, you can press out a Q-Pel a minute. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool because I want to burn some sheep bones and I want to make some Q-Pels. I mean, that's just a thing. Yes, Eoxio, I am thinking of doing that. I mean, I'm thinking of talking to butcher shops about it. First, I have to find a place to burn my bones. You know, that's a thing. I also have been taking daily tank temperature measurements because I am now pretty darn well convinced that the temperature of the solution, I don't know whether it matters for the Eco Goldex, but I am dang sure it matters for that resin because everything I have been reading lately on resins in general says, oh yeah, they have an operating temperature range where they're happy campers. And ours has not been in the happy camper operation range here. So Professor Hardrock's 3 pumps cause a tremendous change in temperature over the course of 6 hours of operation. When I tested the tank in the morning one day last week, we were at 20 degrees Celsius. When I tested it at the end of the day, we were at 37. That's with 3 pumps running. So that's a pretty good thing. I am thinking that the resin beads probably operate best between 70 and 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything I have read indicates that that's the sweet spot for resin to work in water filters. And essentially, since the resin beads we're using were supposedly designed to remove nitrates from water, this seems like a good place to start. So I am watching all of that. The Q-Pels are formed slightly wet. You basically grind the materials to varying sizes, and the book gives me all the proportions for that. And you get them to about the wetness of beach sand when you're making a sand castle. So just enough wetness so you can stick them together and form a shape, but not so wet that when you press them, a whole bunch of liquid comes out. So yeah, they do have to be slightly moist to stick together when you press them. And then you dry them over a period of weeks or months in a temperature controlled environment, and you test them on a regular basis to look for that metallic ring. So I'm learning a lot about Q-Pels here. Oh man. But anyway, I have some interesting tests coming up this coming week because we've been testing some resin, and my plan is to run my particular little experimental batch of resin. One batch of it I am going to be working with after it's been through 1 leach cycle of 24 hours. Another batch, it's going to be 2 leach cycles. A third batch, it'll be 3. And the fourth batch, it'll be 4, because I want to see how the loading factor may be affected here. That's one thing. Another thing we're looking at doing is running the beads through a dang blender while they're wet after they've been loaded and turning them into puree and then allowing them to air dry. I'm going to be rerunning all of his temperature experiments on drying, contrasting between air drying and drying at various different oven temperatures as well, because quite frankly, we need it all on paper. I like paper. I like lots and lots of paper.
Did I mention she's OCD?
I am a scientifical type person, and you still owe me a lab coat. I can't run a lab without a lab coat. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Jeff. I'm thinking this blender idea may work well. One thing I'm curious about, though, is if we do blenderize it, and we find a way to strip the resin so the resin can be reloaded, I'm wondering if it has to be in beads to load it all. Now, earlier, Professor Hardrock mentioned he noticed the different colors. Yours truly, of course, had already noticed that we have 5 or 6 different colors and we have 5 different discrete sizes. Now, those sizes are less than a half a millimeter apart, but they're there. Now, the other interesting thing I noticed, when I was doing my last roasting experiment, I was roasting at 800 degrees Fahrenheit covered in a scorification dish. And I was checking every half hour and taking a representative sample of beads and looking at them microscopically. The little teeny tiny gold ones, the ones that are brass colored, are usually the last to break open. We had 4 colors. When they get to that metallic stage, they start by going through a black carbon stage where they all turn basically carbon and they look like charcoal briquettes, only little round beads, that kind of carbon. Then they become metallic. And we had a bronze color, a brass color, a copper color, what I'd call an antiqued copper color. And each color bead fractures and disintegrates in a different pattern than the others. I do not know why. Now, I would hazard a guess that we are still having losses in both gold and silver in the cupellation because we have shitty cupels, okay? I have inferior cupels. So yes, I'm losing gold. And by the way, the book says you're wrong. The book says you can have losses of gold up to 3%. So just to let you know. We're still having losses of gold. I'm betting we're having losses in the cupellation stage for a couple of reasons. First of all, there have been times when I have seen very, very tiny gold microbeads. We're talking 1/4 the size of a grain of salt left in the cupel, and some on the insides of cracks in the cupel. Second, the numbers are still not adding up, which pisses me off to no end. So this coming week, what I have done is I took one of my fouled cupels and I crushed it. I kind of beat the bejeebers out of it and pulverized it until it was all passing 35 mesh.
No, the resin beads, as she is roasting them.
The resin beads are what shatter. When you roast the beads, they start out carbonizing and they burn like crazy at that stage. They're actually burning in the scorification dish. And then after they've burned, the carbon just disappears to somewhere. After they're done burning, they look like little carbon beads. They look like little, lava beads, black carbon. Then that just randomly disappears somewhere between a half an hour and 45 minutes into the roasting. Yeah, it probably goes to CO2. And they all take on a metallic luster. And the different sizes of beads are different colors. And they have a different metallic luster. And when they fracture in different patterns. We've got copper-colored ones that fracture in an almost flower pattern. The bronze and brassy ones fracture in planar fractures or scales. Forming nitrides. Hadn't thought about that, but send me all the information you have on nitrides because I don't know much about them. And they all fracture differently. By the time we hit 4 hours into this, we were down to rust-colored flakes and no beads left at all. I literally reduced 25 grams of beads to 0.90 grams of material. And I still got a gold bead out of it. It was a lot smaller than it was supposed to be, but it was still there.
Define a lot smaller.
It was about 20% less than expected.
Okay. See, that's substantially smaller, but some people might think a lot smaller would be 50% or more. Other people might.
No.
So by giving a number, Miss Lavoisier.
Well, if you want my actual figures, I'll be giving those next week in my lab report in a general way. At the moment, I believe I have accounted for at least 50% of our gold losses in the crucible process. I have to test the ideas I have on some fresh resin this coming week. The other losses, I believe, are happening in the cupellation process, which is why I have done pulverized a very used cupel and crushed it down to passing 35 mesh, and I'm going to be assaying the darn thing this week, and I'm going to be turning it into a group of little lead buttons. Every single one of those little lead buttons is going to go through a cupellation process and either produce a bead or not, and if it produces a bead, it's going to be parted, so I can find out what the hell went into that cupel. That's why I'm weighing everything, because if you have a cupel that starts out at 115 grams, and that seems to be about average for these things when they're brand new, and you put a 50-gram button in it. At the end, you would expect to see a cupel, if everything went into the cupel, that weighed 165 grams. I have gotten cupels at the end that started at 115, got a 50-gram bead in them, and ended up weighing 168, which means extra shit showed up from somewhere, or there's something wrong with that fancy dance new scale. I'm betting on number one, and I don't know why it's happening yet, but I'm working on it.
By the way, when she's
They
crushing,
taste purple, huh?
when she's crushing
know that.
cupel, she is wearing a toxic dust respirator.
I have not titrated a solution to assay yet, personally. But something really weird happened the other day that you guys might find interesting. So, as I said, I went and crushed a cupel, and I decided to try dry separating it by dry panning it to see if some of the particles were heavier than others. And it turned out they were. So then I decided, well, I was going to rinse them, and I'm going to reserve the so-called slimes here and test those entirely separately. Everything's being dried, and that was all well and good. So I did that outside day before yesterday. Now, also outside, I had a stainless steel pan that was laying face up, and I had our warmer for parting beads, which is a crock pot I bought for $1.50 down at the thrift shop. Okay. This is important information because then it rained. So we show up yesterday, and my little dish of slimes was there, and I carefully decanted that water into my stainless steel and started washing my cupel crushings again. And it got to the point where I couldn't scrape it out of the stainless steel thing real easily. So I happened to look at my warmer, and my warmer was full of water. So I grabbed my warmer and I dumped some in the pan, in the gold pan, and continued to rinse and poured off the very last of my slimes. And then I took my gold pan inside, and I was putting the tailings, putting out the stuff to dry. I come out a little while later, and danged if the water in that slimes container wasn't purple. It was flat out purple. And I'm like, well, this is an interesting development. So, hearkening back to my grandmother, I immediately went and grabbed a box of baking soda and threw baking soda in it, because my grandmother always said, if you saw unidentified liquid anywhere, you throw baking soda on it. Don't ask me why. Nothing happened, and it stayed purple. So then Professor Hardrock tells me, well, throw some lime in there. So I threw lime in there, and it ceased to be purple. So at the moment, that unidentified substance is still sitting in the containers out there, and I'm going to very carefully evaporate it, very carefully double bag it, and stare at it for a while until I decide to try to figure out what the fuck it is. Oxidized water and copper, maybe. I'm not sure, Zioxio, but whatever it was, it stopped being purple once I put a bunch of lime in it. And by the way, the ending pH on it turned out to be 9.99 when I thought to put the pH meter in it after I put the lime in. So, I have a mystery material and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I wonder if there's a way I can assay this shit. But I'm not going to try because, well, it didn't blow up and it didn't burn me and it didn't outgas and it didn't change temperature and it didn't bubble or do anything weird at any point here. But I still don't know what it is. Therefore, it's just going to be weighed and cataloged and just considered one of the great mysteries of life. But this coming week, with any luck, I will get some QPEL assays done and I will have a chance to work with some fresh resin and see if I can get a better slag that actually works with the resin. If I can get some potash, that would really help. Book says I need
Good
potassium
for you, Adam.
carbonate.
Sounds great.
Oh, cool. Wow. I don't know if it was purple of Cassius, Chris, but according to the book, if it was purple of Cassius, it should have faded in color relatively quickly and been able to be refreshed by adding more stannous chloride. And it never faded in color. It sat there and was happily purple, well, sort of reddish purple. It was happily reddish purple. We'll call it ripe plum, okay? Not bluish purple, reddish purple. It was happily reddish purple for about a half an hour before I got around to throwing some lime in it. So, have no idea. But I will figure it out sooner or later.
Well, the heating dish that she, had rainwater in, that had no doubt some parting acid in it.
Yeah.
There were a few spills there, so yeah.
The parting heater definitely had some silver nitrate in it, and it also had some parting acid in it because things had spilled now and then. Throw some HCl in it and see if it turns purple again. I'll try that. That sounds fun. I love mixing things together. And I will look that up, Chris. Potassium permanganate, huh? Cool. Gonna have to check it out. But anyway, this coming week is going to be all about dealing with the QPEL material, and if I can get some resin dried from our most recent leaching cycle, then working on a slag solution that will give me a decent slag with the resin, because this is being ridiculous. And figuring out how to get smaller buttons but still get everything fully oxidized, because this business of 60-gram buttons is a little bit ridiculous as well. And I also need to figure out how to recover that dang lead, because I don't like waste. Way. I do not like
I mentioned
waste.
She's a bit OCD.
I want my lead back. There's no reason for it to be bye-bye. I want it back.
We're using the silver as an in quart with the gold beads, the rough gold beads that we get, to make sure that when we part them, we get a pure gold bead so that we can make sure we know exactly how much gold we recovered.
Yep.
What was the host ore? What we are assaying right now is resin. The ore that we are leaching to load the resin is basically an oxidized, good grade iron, and it's got magnetite, limonite, and a lot of dolomite in it. So it has a lot of hydroxide also.
Well,
carbonate.
See, Oxio, it's not a matter of the cost necessarily. It's just a matter of I don't want the waste. There's no reason for the waste. If I can get the lead back, then either I can reuse it or I can use it for something else. I see no reason to not get it back. It annoys me for it to go away when there's no reason for it to go away. I mean, as it is, we still need to find out whether the Eco Goldex is even recovering whatever silver is in the ore, because the numbers are not adding up. And if
Yes.
silver was being recovered,
You mean dissolved?
if silver was being dissolved and it was being picked up by the resin, then it should be showing up somewhere, and it ain't. But I know it's in the ore because we got assays from a real assayer in the ore and on the ore, and it says there's silver in there. So that's
Yes.
annoying.
It's running roughly 1-to-1 with the gold, plus or minus. One thing we're going to be doing soon, once we're up and running on a more routine basis at the mill, is we're going to send off a sample for multi-element analysis. That'll give us the silver too. Right now, all we're doing is assaying for gold.
Well, Rock Butcher, I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this for love of scientifical shit. Okay. If I were doing it for money, I would be writing because I make more money as a writer. Since right now I am just here, I'm a happy assistant. I'm doing it for the scientifical shit.
Sounds good to me, Chris. Eva's not much into pineapple, though.
Ooh. Well, it still sounds really good. Yeah. Well, I'm not losing any money, and it's not costing the boss anything either, because we're already using the equipment. What I'm looking at is if we can find a way to pull it out electrolytically, then that would be the easiest way to do it.
Well, she's also learning how to do different things. Sometimes the actual task at hand isn't profitable, but the skill that you gain is somewhere later.
And if worse comes to worse, I'll end up with a whole pile of lead buttons, because it's also a disposal problem. I mean, making a whole bunch of lead QPels or ending up with a whole bunch of lead that has to be disposed of is not exactly a desirable thing either, because of environmental stuff. And I can totally get the point in that, because I don't have anything against protecting the environment in that regard. So that's another consideration for me. But since I'm just doing this because I like doing the science stuff, I have a real head for paperwork, and he needs to be doing the heavy grunt work and stuff. Somebody has to be in the lab, and that somebody is me. So when I'm in there, I might as well be doing something.
Do you think she's noticed yet?
Antimony is kind of very extremely nasty shit. Antimony is very, very nasty stuff. And yes,
Turn around.
there
and
is
look at
something
this.
behind me that I can see,
Do
and
you
I will
see
be
it now?
addressing this. No, I'm going to be addressing that in 16 minutes.
You can thank Lars for that.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it does, Jeff. But, the thing is, I mean, it could be worse. I'm going to be looking at the sign in like 2 minutes, because I need to go get the thing that goes with the sign. Now, don't I?
I hope you're watching that, Lars.
I hope you are too, Lars.
Oh,
Note, the tinfoil hat goddess, as given to me by Lars, one of the faithful people who loves the tinfoil hat goddess. And it is, why are you moving my sign? Put my sign back. I want my sign back.
do it this way.
There you go.
You have to have your sign language
Well,
interpreter here. Remember?
That sign is gorgeous. The tinfoil hat goddess is pleased. The goddess definitely likes the sign, people. Okay. Yeah, Kodak. I will find something to do with it. Nugget claims? Resort dog, that's so cool. We want to see pictures of nuggets. Picture it didn't happen. Oh, wow. That sucks, Resort Dog. Bad enough when people die, but when people take the good secrets with them, that really sucks. But see, Look at the sign. I now have a sign. It's about time I got a sign, I mean, everybody else around here has signs. So now the goddess has a sign. Let me go get my article thingy. Jim has a sign. He's part of Hard Rock University. We all know this. We know these truths to be self-evident. It's a sign. So, it has been an odd sort of week now, hasn't it? Many things must be ignored this week. But, first of all, apparently people are getting really rude with the Peruvian president the last few days. So things could be getting pretty weird in Peru lately. But in a neighboring, well, kind of sort of neighboring country, Colombia miners brace for environmental crackdown. Miners operating in Colombia are bracing for tighter environmental rules as the two anti-establishment presidential candidates that made it into a runoff on June 19th have promised stricter environmental rules and controls over the industry. After no candidates were able to reach on Sunday's election more than the 50% of votes required to win outright, the South American nation will have to choose between Gustavo Petro, a leftist former guerrilla member and once mayor of Bogota, and Rodolfo Hernandez, a business magnate viewed as a conservative populist insider or outsider. Colombia, known for its vast reserves of coal, petroleum, emeralds, gold, and copper, has seen its resources sector grow in the past decade. Not only mining exports in the first 3 months of the year jumped 44% from the same period of 2021 to $3.75 billion, the best result in a decade. The industry is also on track to bring in a record 8.8 trillion pesos, $2.2 billion, in taxes and royalties during 2022, according to the Colombian Mining Association. Assuming the new president doesn't overhaul the sector, Colombia's income from mining could jump 69% this year from the previous 2021 record of 5.2 trillion pesos, the association said last week, crediting rising prices for the projected increase. Petro, the 62-year-old left-wing candidate, is running on a platform that proposes radical changes to the country's economic model to combat one of the highest inequality rates in the world. An inequality rate. Petro has said under his administration, coal and oil reserves will be left buried and new licenses prohibited, while his government will search for ways to finance the country's economy decarbonization. Really now. He's also promised to ban large-scale open-pit mining. The candidate, who will be the first leftist president in Colombia's history if he wins in June, wants the state to take control of all water basins used for energy generation and mining projects. Petro, who obtained 40% of the votes, has also vowed to increase environmental, labor, and tax controls on ongoing mining operations. He says he'll protect artisanal and small-scale miners while making big companies responsible for environmental liabilities, including land rehabilitation and water sources cleanup. Petro's rival in the runoff will be billionaire Hernandez, the self-proclaimed king of TikTok. Really? Who adopted a confrontational stance with traditional media, drawing comparisons to that of former U.S. President Donald Trump and Brazil's Jair Bolsonaro. When it comes to mining, Hernandez is less specific than Petro. The 77-year-old, who obtained 28% of the votes, said he'll hold multinationals accountable to the same standards they have to follow in their countries of origin. Now, that's an idea I can almost go along with. At the same time, he wants to attract investment in the sector with clear permitting rules that included strategic meetings with communities close to the project. Hernandez also wants to modify the penal code to include damages to the environment, including risk to public health, as a crime. He proposes a special protection plan for the Colombian Amazon and the country's biodiversity-rich areas, which today are affected by illegal extraction and deforestation. Well, let's see. The leftist candidate would be an absolute disaster for Colombia as a whole, never mind the mining industry. The other guy that they're likening to, sadly, former President Trump sounds marginally better here. I do agree, actually, with the idea that mining companies be held to the standards that exist in their own countries. One of the reasons, however, that said, the big caveat here is what kind of regulatory jihad is going on in their countries. Because one of the reasons that the American mining industry is a hollow shell and a ghost of its former self is because of regulatory jihad on the part of the federal government, state governments, and various environmental and non governmental organizations. They have made it damn near impossible to mine in America, which is why our mining companies are going elsewhere. So that is a double edged sword there. What I would like to see as the best case scenario is regulatory sanity that exists across all nations. Unfortunately, with the green agenda, that's going to be a little bit difficult. Just saying. I mean, we all know how that one goes. And in other mining news, um, we're going to be seeing a lot of decreased production out of South America in general, and we're also probably going to be seeing some decreased production next year out of Africa, especially in the critical metals sector, because we've got a lot of governmental unrest and regulatory bullshit going on in many places. One of them is in Zambia. Zambia. Let's see, third world African. Yeah. Billionaires seized mines pose quandary for new Zambian leader. It seems to be becoming fashionable to nationalize and or flat out steal people's resources. And this is a case again of this happening. Zambia's new business-friendly president faces a dilemma. Risk a political backlash by returning mining shafts seized from an Indian company his mines minister once labeled as the nation's worst ever investor, or prolong a 3-year legal dispute over one of its most important assets. Hakainde Hichilema, who won power in August, has yet to say what he'll do to revive Konkola Copper Mines, PLC, a key to realizing his ambition of more than doubling the national output of the metal within 5 years and rebooting the debt-stricken economy. Predecessor Edgar Lungu stripped majority shareholder Vedanta Resources Limited of the operation after a dispute over taxes and its expansion plans. Vedanta, owned by Indian billionaire Anir Agarwal, has been fighting the decision ever since, largely paralyzing one of Africa's biggest integrated copper producers, which employs almost 13,000 workers. Hichilema told reporters at a mining conference in Cape Town this month that agreements had been reached to end litigation, a detente Vedanta confirmed, prompting speculation the company will return. A public backlash ensued, and the government swiftly denied a decision had been taken. It then emerged Vedanta had filed a new lawsuit in the Lusaka High Court, challenging the state's appointment of a new provisional liquidator on May 11th, the same day the firm said it had agreed to terminate all legal action. By the time Zambia seized Vedanta's local assets, its reputation had been damaged because it failed to pay its suppliers and contractors, and working conditions at KCM were so bad, Mines Minister Paul Kabuzwe said in an interview. If ever they were to come back, these are issues that need to be looked at. The company is adamant it wants to return. It will pay KCM suppliers as much as $220 million due at the time the provisional liquidator was appointed. Give workers 20% wage increases and cash bonuses, the company said in a May 5th letter to Kabuzwe. It also undertook to spend $1 billion to complete an expansion project that started in 2008. Vedanta is ready to serve the community and workforce in a responsible manner through a structured program and an independent trust to empower Zambians in the areas it operates in, Chief Executive Officer Sunil Dugal said in an emailed response to questions. The company has faced other controversies. Last year, it reached a settlement with 600 Zambian children who filed a claim against it in a UK court for polluting a river. And in 2018, the government in India's southern Tamil Nadu state closed a copper smelter the firm owns after more than a dozen people died when police opened fire on villagers protesting against pollution from the plant. The company denied wrongdoing and is still fighting the decision in court. Its relationship with the Zambian government deteriorated after a 2014 video recording surfaced in which Agarwal boasted about KCM making as much as $1 billion a year for Vedanta. At the time, KCM was declaring losses. The remarks sparked an outcry in the media and the decision to liquidate KCM, which conflicted with the 2004 accord stating any disputes should be resolved through arbitration, and it won widespread public support. Dougal said the 2014 video of Agarwal addressing business people in Bangalore, India, was posted by an activist who took a small part of the video footage from the chairman's speech and used it negatively out of context. Activist. How odd. Agarwal said at the time the company had taken very little out of KCM. The situation remains that people are very negative about Vedanta. Bizek Firi, a history professor at the University of Zambia in Lusaka, the capital, said by phone, "People are saying, how can we trust this company this time around? Why should they do things differently?" Kabuzwe says the decision to shut KCM was flawed, and the government should rather have withdrawn Vedanta's mining licenses if it was found to have broken rules. The previous liquidator stepped down in March after prosecutors accused him of theft and money laundering. Really now? Kabuzwe's Chilabombwe constituency, home of Konkola's biggest mines, was one of the key areas in Zambia's Copperbelt region that helped Hichilema beat Lungo by a landslide. It had previously been a political stronghold of Lungu's party and was also the parliamentary seat of his mines minister. The legal wrangling and several failed attempts at arbitration have starved KCM of capital, while deterring other potential investors at a time when prices are surging for the metal that's a key ingredient in renewable energy equipment, like wind turbines and Tesla's electric cars. In 2019, KCM produced more than 177,000 tons of finished copper. The metal accounts for more than 75% of Zambia's export earnings. And by the way, forget the electric cars. Your average two-bedroom American home has over 400 pounds of copper in it. Isn't that nice to know? The eventual outcome of the dispute will give an indication of how committed the government is to maintaining policy stability and protecting property rights. Developments are being closely watched by businesses and Zambia's trading partners alike. Further complicating matters is that KCM agreed to borrow $100 million from Trafigura Bahir BV in July last year to continue operating. The debt was supposed to be repaid in future copper production. JCCM Investment Holdings plc, the state's investment company that owns 20.6% of KCM, put up 750,000 of the 3 million shares it holds in Kansanshi Mining plc as a guarantee for the loan, according to the agreement seen by Bloomberg. Kansanshi, one of Zambia's biggest copper mines, is majority owned by First Quantum Minerals Limited. An audit will be done of the asset, including a legal assessment of the agreements entered into by the provisional liquidator during his tenure at KCM. The government is intent on protecting investor rights and ensuring mines are responsibly and transparently managed without political interference and doesn't want to get bogged down in a conversation around ownership, according to Anthony Bolia, Hichilema's spokesman. If you're a miner on the copper belt, what you want is a job that's guaranteed and assured, Bolia said by phone. The only thing we're concerned about is whatever decision we make, that decision must deliver jobs for the miners, improve their income, benefit local communities, and add to the tax base. Augustine Mumbanga, whose company supplies cables and other mining equipment to KCM, said Vedanta may be best placed to revive KCM because it knows the assets and the investments needed. If the government were allowed to allow Vedanta back in, it should demand it first transfer as much as $1.8 billion to accounts in Zambia to pay for KCM's expansion and settle its arrears with suppliers. Talk is cheap, Mubanga said by phone. We need an investor that's ready to bring the asset back to full operation. Even so, restoring Vedanta's control could come at great political cost to Hichilema, said Grieve Chewa, Director of Research at the New Schools Institute on Race, Power, and Political Economy. The New Schools Institute on Race, Power, and Political Economy? I really don't know what to make of that one. Vedanta was completely despised on the copper belt, he said by phone, and for good reason. So, here we have governments seizing the property of shady businesses without due process. And then the people that are supposed to implement process are apparently corrupt as well. In Mexico, we have governments nationalizing mines just because. Notice there that they're not nationalizing the mines that are in control of the cartels. Apparently, the government doesn't want to mess with the cartels. And I can't say I blame them because the cartels are better organized and probably better financed. And then down in Peru, we have indigenous people and non-governmental organizations that aren't even Peruvian, making it extraordinarily difficult for mining companies to operate at all. And the Peruvian government isn't helping, but they're having a few internal struggles there themselves. In Colombia, we now have some foaming at the mouth leftist who probably is going to shut down mines entirely, which would be not necessarily a good thing. Okay. The mining sector is currently sitting at a crossroads. This is a serious inflection point because guess what, people? I don't know whether you've noticed this or not lately, but we're trembling on the edge of a complete global financial meltdown. Now the goddess is not being hyperbolic here. Okay, I am not engaging in hyperbole. Germany is now facing the highest inflation levels it's had in 60 years or so. Most of the EU is facing the highest inflation levels they've had in 60 years or so. We're going to draw the curtain of charity over the numbers that the United States government is putting out these days because I'm sorry. If I even tried to repeat most of those numbers, my nose would end up breaking the screen on the laptop in front of me. Okay? Those numbers have no connection to truth or objective reality. And in the middle of all this, we have a world that needs more critical metals of all kinds than ever in history. And they're rushing headlong toward needing more of them at absolutely unsustainable levels. While at the very same time, the governments that are demanding that these metals be made available are also demanding that these metals be made available with zero carbon footprint. And basically, you'd have more luck trying to source a new market and a new supply of fairy dust and unicorn farts than getting truly green minerals or metals. Okay. There is always going to be a carbon cost associated here. Quite frankly, the carbon cost associated is far worse on your average wind turbine or solar panel than it is on your average nuclear power plant or your average internal combustion car engine, for that matter. But be that as it may, we are about to fall over the cliff, and the mining industry is in the middle of this. And very, very few miners are uniting. This is a time when our industry, large and small, should be coalescing, should be uniting and saying, excuse me, reality check here, people. If you actually want us to produce, you need to give us conditions to do so. We should also be self-policing. It should be noted that this Indian company in Zambia apparently has not been paying people, which is really rude, as in not paying their bills. And they've been short shifting their workers and screwing their workers out of reasonable salaries, which is also not good. And yet, other people were putting up stocks of other companies to raise money for them. You don't protect bad businesses. If you have a bad business in your industry, you should be self-policing, because otherwise some government opportunist is going to decide to police for you, which in this case would be a really bad idea, because we all know how psychotic our governments are these days. All of them. Now, there was some good news this week in the gold and silver front. Tennessee, great place. Tennessee has become the 42nd state to remove sales taxes on constitutional money, on gold and silver. Now we're going to just politely ignore why it is that sound money, actual constitutional money, was being taxed in the first place. I mean, that we can politely ignore the fact there that it was being taxed in the first place. Kudos to Tennessee to decide to stop taxing something that never should have been taxed in the first place. Good for them. 8 states left to go. Now, when thoughts turn to gold, architects of the School of Economic Thought, regarded by many as just a notch above quackery, John Maynard Keynes. Yeah, that man. Once called the gold standard a barbarous relic. Really now. An honest and time-honored medium of exchange, such as gold or paper money redeemable in gold, stood in the way of Keynes's snooty preference for lots of government spending and easy money. Harry Hazlitt was an infinitely better economist and closely associated with Fee for decades. He picked Keynes apart virtually line by line in his definitive 1959 tour de force, The Failure of the New Economics. This is a good book to read, people. If you're an economics major and your professors never told you about it, consider demanding a tuition refund. Well, considering the caliber of what they're calling professors these days, we should all be demanding tuition refunds in the first place. Keynes and Hazlitt knew each other but agreed on little. In 1931, in fact, Hazlitt invited Keynes to participate in a series of articles around the theme, If I Were a Dictator. I knew Hazlitt personally and called him by his nickname Harry, as did others among his many friends. I cherish the letters from him in my personal files. He was so much more than a fine economist, an exceptional journalist, a scholarly but accessible gentleman, and a brilliant moral philosopher as well. Hazlitt authored more than 24 books, most notably the classic Economics in One Lesson, available free from Fee. In his 1978 volume, The Inflation Crisis and How to Resolve It, he noted that far from a barbarous, gold served many nations extraordinarily well. It was the world's chosen money for centuries. The unprecedented explosion of economic growth in the 19th century was accompanied by sound money tied to gold, punctuated by brief calamities when politicians abandoned it. Governments don't like it because they can't print it, pure and simple. As Hazlitt wrote in The Inflation Crisis, it is the outstanding merit of gold as the monetary standard that it makes the supply and purchasing power of the monetary unit independent of government, of office holders, of political parties, and of pressure groups. The great merit of gold is precisely that it is scarce, that its quantity is limited by nature, it is costly to discover, to mine, and to process, and it cannot be created by political fiat or caprice. It is precisely the merit of the gold standard, finally, that it puts a limit on credit expansion. Yeah, sound money has sound rules. In the long run, just as Keynes predicted, Keynes himself was indeed dead. But gold, as a reliable medium of exchange, lasted far longer than he ever did. It may reemerge one day to replace the barbarous paper inflation his legacy helped to create. Wouldn't that be ironic, if not entirely predictable? Americans are once again feeling the pain of runaway expansion of money and credit that a gold standard would never have allowed. We hear almost daily nonsensical pronouncements about price inflation from the very barbarous relic people who are responsible for it. Jerome Powell, chairman of the inflation factory known as the Federal Reserve,
took a short break from the printing press to assure us the Fed understands the hardship that it's causing and that his paper money machine is moving expeditiously against it. Yeah, right. He's counting on us being sufficiently gullible and miseducated to thank him for his inflation-fighting efforts. Count me out, please. So gold is barbarous, but unbacked, inconvertible, irredeemable paper money cranked out by elitist officialdom is not. So sound money and stable money is bad, but fiat money belched out by political appointees is good. When did such nonsense come from and where? I have a few more questions for Mr. Powell and his barbarous relic associates. What is government-issued fiat money made from? Angel breath? Divine manna from monetary heaven? Probably. Of course not. It's a digital form. In its digital form, it's composed of ethereal ones and zeros, while the physical and familiar form is made from trees. Trees! Actually, that I would correct him on. American money, anyway, is far more fabric than it is paper. Just so you know, it's like 95-pound linen. When and where in history did a tree, or any tree derivative, emerge naturally and voluntarily as a reliable medium of exchange? Never and nowhere except when it was issued as a kind of receipt of the real thing. Opponents of the gold standard want us to believe gold is old-fashioned, that a more enlightened perspective is that money shouldn't come from a hole in the ground. Think about it. They're telling us money should instead come from trees. Trees. Well, actually, now they're going even further. Money should come from electrons. Which sounds more dependable, a gold standard or a tree standard? On this important matter, go with your gut feeling. As price inflation eats away at our savings and livelihoods, it's time we rethink money and monetary policy. We should compare the record of the gold standard with that of our present tree standard. We ought to take a closer look at all the false promises of the tree standard advocates from Keynes to Powell. Toward that end, there are a list of excellent fee articles below, and this is posted on Money Metals, but you can go to fee.org and also go to mises.org while you're at it, mises.org, so that you can actually learn about real money that has real rules. Because I'll tell you, as much as I have studied sound money, I'm always learning something new from reading places like this. And yes, sound money has sound rules. There have been interesting things going on in the gold and silver market. I don't know if any of you keep an eye on COMEX. You know, the guys that have the $1,000 bars, that it's 1,000-ounce bars of silver that it's dang near impossible to get delivery on. Go ahead and think about this one for a minute. There are people out there that have actually tried to get delivery direct from COMEX before, and it can be very, very difficult. One has to wonder why. I mean, 1,000 ounces of silver, yeah, it does weigh about 40 some odd pounds, I believe. But, you know, I mean, if you supposedly have 80, you know, if you supposedly have entire repositories full of them, it should not be that hard to box one up and mail it out. But apparently it's been more difficult of late. One has to wonder why. But then, if you actually look at the numbers, at the moment, COMEX has less than 75 million ounces on the registered logs. The registered is the stuff that is available to buy and say to them, okay, mail this to me, please. Less than 75 million ounces. Now, this is very interesting because coming up on the next contract day, well, there's about 830 some odd contracts that are coming up that are due to take delivery. Those are just the ones we know about. that are 5,000 ounces apiece. It's kind of interesting. It really is. And the most interesting thing about this is the day before delivery day. Every time there's a delivery month, every time contracts are coming due, all of a sudden, people like the Bank of America, that last I checked had $800 million in silver shorts, suddenly aren't getting delivery on anything, but also they're suddenly not losing money. Methinks that part of the reason our silver prices and gold prices are being frantically suppressed may well be that a whole lot of companies, top of the list being JP Morgan and Bank of America being in the top 10, JP Morgan is number 1, would lose a whole hell of a lot of money if they actually had to cover all this paper that is floating around. Now, granted, they'd be covering it with more paper. But at the same time, gold prices are falling. At the same time, silver prices are sitting in the doldrums at the moment at under $22 an ounce. It's a fire sale, people. This is a yard sale. This is the time to back up the truck to the LCS and take whatever they have, because the prices, even with the ridiculous premiums, are amazing right now. At the same time, most of Europe is going into an inflationary cycle they haven't seen since the 70s, the 60s, and in some cases the 50s. Many European nations are talking about expanding their gold reserves held in their country. Their governments are actually buying more gold. Now, it seems rather interesting that at a time when there's more demand than there has ever been, silver is now almost down at what is considered the average cost per ounce to mine, the all-in cost. The all-in cost at most mines is right around $20 an ounce. That's with the new fuel costs and everything. The price of mining, it's gone up. The last figure I saw for an all-in cost for gold happened to be from Hecla Mining, and they were giving a conservative estimate of $1,400 an ounce as an all-in cost for an ounce of gold. So the spread between cost to get it out of the ground and cost it sells for is far, far tighter on silver than it should be. It's just about where it belongs for gold at the moment. But that is not what gold should actually be selling for. $21.85 an ounce is not what silver should actually be selling for either. And this is where a lot of people get derailed, because they say, well, if spot price is $21.85, why do you expect me to pay $26 or $27? Because there's a whole lot of people between you and the initial thing, and the spot price is not what matters on anything. I mean, that's like saying that, well, the wholesale price on the stove in my kitchen is $500. Why should I pay $1,100? Because the spot price is kind of like a wholesale rate, and nobody ever gets wholesale rate. Not even retail stores get the true wholesale rate. They get wholesale rate with a 10% markup, wholesale with a 20%, because there's always 2 or 3 people in the middle. So where we are now is more governments are moving toward gold. More governments are saying, well, hey, maybe it would be a good idea to keep some gold around. Maybe it would be a good idea to keep some gold around in our own country instead of in the Federal Reserve, because guess what? The countries that were stupid enough to continue storing their gold in our Federal Reserve tend to have a hard time getting it back. I wonder why that is. Then again, I'm still wondering why Fort Knox is all boarded up with plywood. But, I mean, that's just one of those things, one of the great mysteries of life. There have been a lot of great mysteries of life this week. Like Lord Malarkey, in his infinite wisdom, believing quite firmly that a 9mm round will blow an entire lung out of your body. But that was just a typical Malarkey statement. I mean, we all know what the current
9mm heat.
person wandering around in the albino McMansion is like when he decides to open his mouth and people actually let him talk to the public. So hearing that from him was not unexpected. Hearing many of the things we hear lately on the news is not unexpected. I mean, let's face it, things are getting bizarre. In other bizarre news, there was a random massive fire in a random egg laying factory in Minnesota, Wisconsin, one of those states over there by those lake thingies, somewhere up in that area, last night or the night before. Just spontaneously went poof out of nowhere and burned 200,000 chickens to death in the middle of the night. We may or may not hear the results of the investigation, since apparently nobody is yet hearing the results of the investigations on the multiple fertilizer plants that also kind of went foomp in the last 6 or 8 months in the U.S. Also, haven't heard very many details on that bleach plant, the one and only bleach plant, that went foomp some time ago down in Louisiana in the last 6 or 8 months. These kind of things happen all the time. It would be nice if we could actually find out the results of the putative investigations that may or may not be going on, because when the news reports on them at all, which is very rare above the local or regional level, they get memory hold, along with just about everything else these days. Whole lot of memory holes are appearing. That's one thing that we definitely have a surplus of. As a matter of fact, there is an absolute plethora of memory holes all around us every day. In and amongst everything else that happens to be a shortage at the moment, if you live in hurricane country, you might want to consider getting a generator and making sure you have plenty of fuel for it. I would suggest a propane one personally, because they run quieter. You can store more fuel at home, because it just so happens that if you look at these power poles that are around hither and yon, there's these little canister type widget gizmos on them that look kind of scientifical. Well, those are some kind of transformer thingies. And the last time there was a hurricane somewhere, they had to replace 5,600 of those thingies. And they had a lot of trouble finding them. And apparently, in trying to order these pole-sized transformers now, people are facing 6 to 9 month waiting lists to get the little canister kind. The big canister kind, the common ones, are now a 2 to 3 year wait. And the kind of special ones that they have in hydroelectric plants here are like a 5 to 6 year wait to get them. So yeah, I do believe that this would be a good country, because as we had a little kerfluffle with a blizzard over in eastern Montana here recently, like a month and a half or so ago, and some people are just now getting their power back, because there also seems to be a shortage of telephone poles, power poles. Yeah, all kinds of strange things are short right now. Silver and gold are one thing that people are having sporadic shortages on the local level. Some parts of the country are actually having really low premiums right now compared to everybody else, 10, 15%. They're having well-stocked stores. They're having sources. They can find sterling silver in their pawn shops. They can find sterling silver in their thrift shops. Other parts of the country are posting 30 and 40% premiums and next to no selection in the stores. Online, there's been ridiculous premiums. A lot of the big dealers are running flash sales now. So if you want to buy and you're willing to watch your notifications, it's a good idea to sign up for everybody's flash sales. Because in the past couple of weeks, I've seen 10-ounce silver bars and 1-ounce gold bars go on flash sale for $2.99 over spot per ounce. $1.99 over spot. 99 cents over spot for silver on one site that lasted about 7.5 minutes before they were sold out. But that is a very interesting data point because, on one hand, you have your local dealer being told basically on an every week or two basis that their premium at wholesale level is rising and their minimum order to get the best premium is rising. And at the same time, these companies are showing a lot of sold out in the kind of things that people didn't normally used to buy. You used to be able to go to Money Metals or go to AppMex or go to JP Bullion, go to any one of these big sites, and you'd see 100-ounce silver bars. They'd have plenty. You'd see the occasional 1,000-ounce bar. You'd see a 500-ounce bar. You'd see 10-ounce bars, 50-ounce bars. They had plenty at really low premiums because people were not buying them. And here we are in a huge inflation. We're in a recession. We have stagflation going on. Everybody's prices are going through the roof. People's hours are getting cut. Foreclosures on homes are going up across the country and around the world. As a matter of fact, in Australia, they're facing a total housing bubble collapse at the moment. They actually had to bail out a couple of new home buyers down there in terms of the large companies that build homes are getting bailouts. And this is normally not the time when you would see the big dollar items selling out, but you are. You're also I'm seeing across the board everywhere some of the highest prices I've seen on constitutional coinage in a long time. Constitutional coinage is getting positively ridiculous these days. Don't even get me started on art bars and specialty low mint items. But those items are selling, and they're selling for significantly higher than spot. They're selling for far higher than spot because people recognize real wealth when they see it. And they want to spend the pretty pieces of paper that they have before they lose even more value. So, of course, now is indeed the time to stock up on things because the grocery stores are getting a little weird lately. We bought the last twin pack of ibuprofen in Walmart today, of any kind. And cough syrup was kind of missing too. So were several vitamin supplements, 4 or 5 different brands of dog food and cat food and cat litter and several popular varieties of diapers. Never mind formula. Formula hasn't been there in forever. Several types of fruits and vegetables, a whole lot of different types of meat were also not available. Stuff is going to disappear very fast once the average person finally sees that one little thing that scares the living frog out of them. It's always one little thing. During the pandemic, during lockdown 1.0, it was toilet paper. That was the one little thing that freaked everybody out because It would never happen here. America would never be out of something as common and ordinary and inexpensive as toilet paper. There are going to be trigger items to the people all around you, wherever you happen to be. There are people here that are just bebopping along, and up until recently, they've been like, oh, yeah, this is America. We're not going to be short of anything. Then they go to look for one widget that they have never seen out of stock in their entire life, and they discover that it's nowhere to be found, and the price went up significantly, even though it's nowhere to be found. And they say, holy shit, if it could happen with that, it can happen with anything. This is why it's a great time to gather the fiat to yourself and physically possess it. Because we are now seeing, in the last couple of years, governments worldwide have discovered that they can do a whole lot more to their people than they ever thought they could get away with. We have seen governments forcibly confine people to their homes. We've seen governments forcibly confine people in quarantine camps. We have seen governments forcibly expect people to get medical procedures or face severe penalties, some civil, some, in some cases, financial, to be barred from life. We have seen governments in China, right now in China, banks at government behest, in many places, have made it impossible for people to use or access their own money. In Canada recently, SOX did the same thing, made it very difficult to impossible for certain people that happen to be politically unpopular to access their money. We have banks that are treating our economy like a casino as it is. And we have a government that is currently highly, highly suspect. Highly suspect. This is really not a good time to be leaving money in the stock market, for instance, because you're far more likely to make a profit in the casino these days, the way things are going, or in government bonds, which a lot of foreign nations are buying and, selling actually rather than buying. But there's an interesting story there too, because apparently there's some sort of a reverse repossession thing that the government does where they buy back their debt. Some sort of a reverse mortgage type deal, but with treasury bonds. Strange government accounting things. Well, there's a whole bunch of those things that they're obligated to buy in the future, apparently, that add up to over $100 trillion. Now, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how that thing works, but it does not look good. It looks very, very ominous, as a matter of fact, along with everything else on the U.S. debt clock. So I think what we're going to be seeing more of in the silver and gold market is we're going to be seeing more of these random shortages and the random flash sales. The flash sales are interesting because a lot of them are things that people don't normally buy. Your average first-time buyer is not buying a 10-ounce bar of silver. Your average first-time buyer might be buying some Buffalo rounds or a Morgan silver dollar or some quarters or a roll of dimes, etc. But this is a good time to get the fiat turned into actual things of value, actual hard assets, food, car parts, lubricants for cars, since they're still disappearing, by the way, and other various things. but also silver and gold and platinum. A lot more people are buying platinum than they used to. I went to look at something the other day to see, well, hey, what's the platinum looking like these days? And it was all sold out. And it's like, really now? That's a little bizarre. So I went and looked at a couple more places, and well, it was all sold out there too. And it was like, okay, apparently platinum got popular this week for some bizarre reason. So this is the time, if you're going to buy online, to sign up for everybody's emails, and if they have notifications from their phone apps for flash sales, and some of them do, sign up for those too, because the more money you can put into actually getting ounces, the better off you'll be. And propane powered generators, but that is always assuming you can actually find generators these days. They seem to have disappeared too. The shortages are only beginning. But
Configured the set. Thank you, Lars. That's beautiful.
It is a gorgeous sign, Mars.
Yeah.
I love my sign. My sign
Got
is
it.
better than his.
Oh boy.
Oh. Mine's bigger.
Oh boy. All right.
I'm not going to comment, because if I do, I'll say something extraordinary. Oh, I could say something very rude about that.
All right.
I could indeed. Oh, yeah.
Classic. Yeah. What's scary is so much of that's coming true.
Yeah, Soylent Green. That
Yeah.
was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Hey,
actually
smoking.
have a protein powder and meal replacement drink called Soylent.
Oh boy.
That was a marketing.
Gee, that you'd
Some
want to
sort
rush
of
right out and
vegan
buy
thing.
that, wouldn't you? Soylent.
Oh. Anyhow.
Oh, yeah. It's going to get ridiculous.
Hey, Richard.
Hey,
You'll
Richard.
notice. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Life is
Well,
gonna get
hopefully you
ridiculous.
found something in New Mexico,
Yeah.
or did get burned up while you were down there.
It's pretty warm down there now.
Yeah, they had pretty dry weather going on.
We also had a major fire
Yeah.
that was apparently the government's fault
Yeah.
somehow.
Oh yeah,
Government lit
A lot
something
of
else
those-
on fire.
yeah. New Mexico, part of Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gonna do a controlled burn that kind of went wrong.
Not sure smoking.
Oh,
Yeah, it gets pretty spooky at times when it's that close. I hope you were upwind.
yeah. Yeah, evacuating can be a pain.
Oh. Oh, we were about the signs.
Oh,
I think that's what he
Yeah.
was talking about. Yeah.
Eva's got a new sign.
Yep.
Lars, thanks to
Oh.
Lars.
All the bandages. Oh, was I talking back to even? No. Had some problems with nosebleeds lately, and today it just busted loose and would not stop. So I've got an inflatable bladder up my nose, keeping it from leaking too much until we can get to a specialist and get a more permanent thing. So this is the medical equivalent of bubble gum and baling wire. But so far, it's working.
The quick patch.
Yep. Yeah, plug that tire, fix it when you get back, But anyhow, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but nothing dangerous at the moment. No, it wasn't Eva. And how'd that turn out, Richard? Yeah, nothing like having an inflatable bladder in your sinus to make life a little less than perfect. I've got
Not
some good pain meds left over. I know where they're at. I'm going to sleep soundly tonight.
Yeah, that's
Oh my goodness. Luckily, I sleep on this side, so not a problem. My neck's been hurting all morning. I don't know if it's referred pain. You know what I mean?
maybe,
Usually I do like this and it'll,
wow.
change. Not much. I agree with that, Paul. Make sure you get seeds that will continue to propagate.
Yeah,
Yep.
for the future.
Heirloom.
Yep. That's what they're talking about, heritage and heirloom seeds.
Just a bunch of drill holes, huh?
Huh.
Were there any cuttings left by the drill holes? Usually they manage to get rid of those cuttings, strangely enough. Oh. Oh my goodness. Well, anyhow, for those of you who came in late, nosebleed problem. So probably not going to make it out to the mine this week. Most of the mill expansion is complete. We're ready to start processing ore again. The RC46 is running. The new engine's running just fine. And Eva's been working in the lab, studying different ways of smelting the resin and making progress there. And that's about it. I've been getting a lot of exercise. How's our sky looking out here? Well, I can tell it's pretty
raining
bright
here.
out there.
Yeah, it's raining here right now.
100% cloud cover.
Yeah. No, we're getting a bunch of rain. I was kind of watching it while Eva was on.
Yeah, it's 100% cloud cover,
Yeah.
low and heavy, and a light rain. So we're screwed.
Yeah.
No meteor shower for us.
No, we won't see it here tonight the way it's looking.
The only way we'll see it is it's a big one right here. I would prefer to avoid that. Nope. Well, that gives you an idea. Either they were trying to get something further over, or that's about the degree of the bedding. Yeah. Yeah, one watermelon would be a lot of seeds. Absolutely. So that's about it at this time when it comes to those things. He was doing some prep work up there.
Yeah, getting ready. We'll see what the weather, if it cooperates in the next week or so, and get into the field a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds about right, Paul. Yeah, Chris, this is supposedly an old comet that broke up. So probably not much in the way of nickel iron meteorites. Wouldn't think so. That's why they're expecting it, where they're saying that it could get really intense is because they saw the comet actually break up. So they know there's quite a dense cloud of debris. The question is exactly where is it and where we're going to be and all that other fun stuff.
If you'll be able to see it, or
yeah, well, if you could see it, yeah, we're definitely not going to here. That's the inflation tube. This thing runs into a long, skinny bladder up there, and they put saline in here, and it inflates it, so it presses up against the blood vessels and mitigates any leakage. And then when it's time to take it out, they just deflate it and yank it out in excruciating pain while I make
the torture,
bleating, screaming sounds. Yeah. I'll tell you where the generous are. So anyhow, we're yeah, the other hole probably would be less painful. Oh man,
maybe.
Huh. can't hurt to check it out there, Smoking. You never know. Oh, dearie. I never could understand those people like, pour liquid up their nose to rinse their sinuses or whatever. It's like, holy crap, man.
That would freak me out.
That would choke me to death. Man.
Yeah.
It was just, it would be really bizarre. Oh, obviously, it was Memorial Day too. But yeah, well, this thing has to come out in the not too distant future. It has to be removed. So tomorrow, first thing I call the doctor, my GP or whatever, to get a referral to go to the specialist to get this thing pulled out and a permanent fix put in there. Right now I'm just on what do they call that? The space saver.
Yeah. Patch you up, throw you out the door.
Yeah, need a new tire now. Yeah, exactly. So anyhow, and that's what's going on there. I don't know, Roberts, possibly, but I think most of them are probably.
It depends on the fruit.
Hybrids.
Yeah. No, you can propagate blueberries and stuff. It's all doable. But
Oh, I don't know. Excuse me.
you're better off to know where the seed really came and what the plant really is, the variety, though.
Yeah. Let's see.
Other mining. I wanted to
Anyone
shoot
got
some
any
video
questions?
and couldn't because of all the rain and fog and sleet and
You can get video of
I
rain
know,
and
but
fog and
but it
sleet.
would have been really boring. I mean, we just by kind of limiting in what we could do there over the weekend. So
As far as I know, the cyanide doesn't react much at all with the concrete. You've got a basic solution, so you're mainly looking at losing the solution through any porosity. So you might line it with tarps or spray on a plastic coating or something like that. What's with all those extra holes in Keith?
Goldstream just jumped in here, I think.
That's
He
not
missed-
extra holes, just a bad nosebleed that's been temporarily patched up for now. I'm not having any problems with dry nose. This is just one of those blood vessels that sometimes decides to turn into a bad thing. Luckily, it's in my nose, not my brain, or I'd be dead. A bright blue purple rock in it. Well, a lot of copper has blue and purple kind of stuff. Is it translucent or opaque blue purple? Because if it's translucent, it could be fluorite. But you could have azurite. And if it's kind of iridescent, that could be bornite or oxidized chalcopyrite.
Yeah, or copper.
Those are copper minerals there. Not translucent. Yeah, it's probably a copper mineral then.
That'd be my guess, Richard.
Oh. Wow. This is so much fun.
Yeah, bornite would be.
What is that? That's just plain copper sulfide, right?
Yeah, it's copper mineral, but you get the peacock colors.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like CUS.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Whereas chalcopyrite is copper iron
Iron
sulfide.
sulfides.
Yeah.
That's true, Paul. It's a good idea.
Oh.
I'm sure it's the pressure in your head making your
Probably.
neck hurt. Yeah,
Probably.
yeah. If your sinuses get plugged up,
I agree, Goldstream. Some of them are really beautiful.
it's really
Bornite,
pretty. If you
oxidized chalcopyrite.
yeah,
I know a guy that he invented a method for putting that finish on chalcopyrite, and for a year or two, he had kind of the lock on it at the Rock and Gem show, the wholesale
To
one and
get
two
it real
cell.
pretty.
Yeah, to get that
peacocky, kind of
iridescent. Yeah,
iridescent. Yeah.
I know that phosphoric acid was involved somehow.
Yeah.
He had a very interesting backyard full of chemical vats. I prefer not to, Goldstream. Yeah, I'm not sure how an asphaltic sealer would work in terms of whether it would uh, adsorb any of the gold from the cyanide. Any ideas on that, Chris? The nice thing about asphaltic sealers, they tend to be a bit resilient.
Right.
You know, they're easy to put on a concrete, and they will have some stretching to them.
Right. Elasticity that moves a little bit with
Yeah,
it.
so it
your
won't crack
temperature
that easy.
change. Yeah.
If you really want to go expensive, they make paint on silicone roof coating now.
Yeah.
And it's some good stuff. Just remember, nothing will stick to it except silicone.
Yeah, really good liner material costs good money too.
Yeah. No, azurite is a different oxide mineral of copper than malachite.
Yep.
Azurite is a deep blue, malachite is a green.
Correct.
Not sure exactly
What the
chemical
formula because
is,
your malachite, you can have that blue tinge to it, or you can see both of them in the same rock.
Yeah, a sheet of rubber. It's hard to get a sheet of rubber that big to line a pond. Although they do make rubberized roofing compounds that come in strips that you peel and then stick the seams together, and they kind of bond.
Yeah, just rubber contact cement.
I don't know what the humidity is, Roberts, but I've been having runny noses for months now. I mean, mucus, so they certainly are not dry.
Well, the paperwork said we should get a humidifier because the atmosphere may be dry enough that it's
Well, especially when you came from a dry climate.
Oh, hell yeah.
That shouldn't be an issue.
Makes this place.
When I came from, a wet climate to here, it bothered me for a while.
Yeah.
Till your body kind of acclimates. But
I'm from southern Arizona.
Right. No, where you came from, it was no different than the low humidity here.
Yeah, it might even be lower down there, but certainly hotter. Yeah, I say if I got mucus dripping out my nose, it's not dry.
No.
So yeah. Goldstream says they're both copper carbonates.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't have any problem for months and months and months, Roberts. And then all of a sudden it started having the same nostril, same place.
It's a vein or whatever.
Yeah, one was just coming. When the guy did the chemical cautery 4 days ago, the doctor's looking in there and goes, "Yep, there it is. There's a spot." Unfortunately, the chemical cautery didn't
do it.
Hold. And so now there's a bigger hole than when we started, apparently. Yeah, Goldstream, I like carved and polished malachite. It's really pretty. No, not too many dairy products. A lot of meat. Maybe that's what happened last night when I was sleeping. Yeah, I'll bet you'd enjoy that smoking. You and which 4 huskies, huh? You're gonna have to.
Might take a few of you to hold it down.
Yeah, it's gonna take about 4 guys, 200 pounds to hold my ass down. Yeah.
Unless you knock him out.
You give me some good shit, man. Might let you do it. Yeah. Eva wasn't happy this morning when I woke her. She wasn't her usual grumpy self, though, because I had a good excuse.
Get up.
Funny thing was, I'm in the kitchen. What is that? 15 feet, maybe 20. I'm going, little one. Nothing. I
Nothing.
didn't want to yell.
Gonna wake
You know, it's
up.
like put some paper down and walk over there. Wake up, my nose is running. I'm bleeding. I need you to drive me to the hospital.
He looked like he had been stabbed.
Yeah.
It looked like there had been a serial killing in my kitchen. It was
Crime scene.
ridiculous.
I think Goldstream, I think
Yeah.
Eva would get annoyed. Then she'd have no one to yell at.
Yep.
But anyhow, or to cook. Yeah, do a lot of cooking around here. So
Yeah.
But
Anybody else been in the field having any success, guys?
Yeah, you can get some interesting pond liner stuff. Absolutely.
We used to get rubber roofing that was in, I think it was in 14 or 16 foot widths. And we'd overlap it by a foot in rubber contact cement. You can get it in 5-gallon pails.
Yeah.
And overlay it. And I would think as a liner, that would work out pretty darn sweet.
It'd be pretty
Because
tough.
it was tough stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I don't like that. So Eva does. This winter, what was it? Were you having trouble breathing? Congestion? Yeah, she was having a little trouble breathing, so we got some a vaporizer and stuff. Or actually, we just put it on the stove, didn't we? Yeah, put the stuff in the water, just put it on the stove because
Yeah.
it's a small enough area, just a little studio here.
Yeah.
And my brother was saying that the liners that they were putting down where he was working out at Goldfields was like 65 mil or something like that. And he said it was so tough you had to have a really sharp knife to cut it at all. It was ridiculous. It never hurts to give it a shot, Roberts.
Never hurts to check.
Was that Placer or Hard Rock or what, Goldstream? 200 feet down.
Deep placer.
Yeah, that's some pretty deep holes.
That's the unfortunate part. There's a lot of that left, but it's an issue as to how you'd mine it.
It's got to be good enough grade.
It'd have to be really good to go to that depth.
You like that Jeff Williams mine? That looks like some pretty good grades.
Well, yeah, if you were, could shaft it, but like where he's at, it's probably pretty wet at depth too. You know, it's like here, if you dug down 200 feet in a drainage here, I'm afraid you'd need scuba gear. Yeah.
Need some good pumps, man.
Unless you had a real good drainage system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I would think it'd work out pretty good as long as you don't puncture it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You go deep, you go expensive. That's the way it works. Kiss my butt,
That
Chris.
sounds
Man.
a good thing to be working on.
Yeah, it does look good. Chris is making ice cream to go with strawberry rhubarb pie. Gold miner, this is still basically just a test mill. And assuming that the mining finds more ore and stuff, we will probably be building an entirely new mill. Going to have to get permits. It would be about 2 miles from the mine itself, but it'd be on a patented claim. And that's going to, before we do that, we'd probably be going for 5 to 10 tons per day minimum, that sort of thing. Now we could theoretically just duplicate what we're doing with the 5 1-ton tanks or whatever and a larger pad, but we'll worry about that when we get there. We're still basically in the testing phase, both the mine and the milling, to refine and routinize, so to speak, the processes and procedures and equipment so that we can say, okay, we know this works. This is how we make it work. This is how we make it work smoothly at all times.
And then you can scale.
And then we could scale. I mean,
Yeah.
What we're doing right now could easily be scaled by just duplicating multiple ones, but that limits a lot of the benefits of scale, which is, keep the same number of people, you can make more. If you go with a bigger crusher, bigger tanks, things like that, the same amount of physical effort, manpower, it makes it much more efficient. Tanks over ponds is still your current preferred method. The agitation tank, it dissolves it so quickly that agitating it first seems to make sense. When you have vat leaching, generally you get lower recoveries, but you load and unload the vats. And if you have heap leaching, then your recovery drops even further. When you're in the, call it target 1 ounce per ton range, my 1 foot wide, 1 ounce per ton sort of thing, if you're losing in a heap leach, it wouldn't be surprising to lose at least a quarter of the gold still left in there. That's actually pretty good recovery for a heap leach. And that's a lot of gold to leave. I mean, that's 1,800 divided by 4. Let's see, 1,800 divided 4. That's $450 a ton you're throwing away. Well, let's see. Let's suppose we get 90% with the current system. So that would only be 15% losses times 0.15 times 1,800. Okay, that's still $270 a ton losses compared to 90% recovery. And that would pay for everything. So that's why when you're dealing with rich ores, recovery tends to take precedence over cost. When you're dealing with low grade ores, cost generally takes precedence over recovery.
Yep.
And so that's why we're looking at it in this way at this time. We've got questionable reserves. So we're trying to keep our capital costs down. We also, it's not, multi-million-dollar company. It's not like the kind of backing you have where if they can see a good reason to spend 10 million, they can actually spend 10 million.
Right.
They're not, in a big hurry to spend 10 million.
No, but they look, it's a different investment level than I think, like Paul and these guys are saying, we're all going to be fighting some cost issues this year with this fuel and travel and, moving things. It's just going to get real expensive to get any traction in a direction.
Well,
unless you, like Jeff or somebody who already has an operating mine system, that's, okay, he understands those costs are definitely going to go up, but he also understands what they can do. The rest of us, it's going to be a tough year here with this cost issues.
The worst panel beating job I have ever seen in my life. Panel of what? Mohammed? Curious. The vat leaching compared to agitation leaching, again, it has a lot to do with the grade, because vat leaching is cheaper than agitation leaching. It also depends on your level of support technology. If you're out in the middle of Tanzania, getting an agitation tank system out and installed is a lot harder than vat.
Right.
And I mean, at a minimum for a vat system, you take some cinder blocks and make yourself some walls in the ground, and
Yeah,
then line it
a
with
swimming pool, basically.
with a liner of some sort. Boom, you're done.
Yeah.
You know. I had a bad nosebleed this morning, and there is an inflatable bladder in there that's expanding to hold out.
Keep him from leaking.
Yeah, to hold back the blood until they can get a more permanent fix in there in the next few days. This is just the inflation tube, and yeah, it's not, but it's not any more pleasant than it looks. I'll tell you. But anyhow, so in the United States, where you can buy things relatively inexpensively, then it's not a bad system, not nearly as bad as a VAT system in terms of the cost differential. As a matter of fact, by the time you bought all the cinder blocks and a liner and stuff for a VAT,
Well,
you might be at somewhere near the cost of that
tanks.
tank and a couple pumps. Yeah.
Yeah, here at least, here, because they do make some tanks here.
Yeah.
You know, in the States.
What about a carbon column leach system? That's not a leach system. That's a recovery system. And basically, it's to recover the gold out of solution. Oh, cool, gold miner. Yeah, he was texting me about that today. Glad to know you're working with
That's
him there.
cool.
Yep.
That'll be fun to hear about, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. So anyhow, in order to make a carbon column system work, you need fairly clear solution. It would be the same as a resin column system, which is essentially what I got, except my resin columns are this big due to the size. Yeah, I noticed. He also doesn't seem to realize I've got a flip phone, so texting is not as easy for me as it is for him. But yeah, nice guy. Did some work with him in the past. But anyhow, so in my case, the carbon columns are replaced with resin cartridges, each one holding 320, 350 grams. I forget what it is we loaded with them. I think it was 320. Should be written on them. When I was at ChemGold, we had carbon columns, each holding, I think it was a ton of carbon in each column. I mean, they were tanks about the size of our agitation tank here.
4 foot or 5 foot tanks.
They were like 4 foot
vertical column.
diameter, 8 feet tall,
Yeah.
something like that. So, luckily, I was able to divert most of it, Chris. But because the resin loads so quickly and to such a high level, and I'm using such a small mill, let's suppose, for the sake of argument, we're doing 1 ton a day, 1 ounce per ton. Okay, we got a 1 ton a day plant, theoretically, 1 ounce per ton. We'd load one of those cartridges a day, roughly, maybe just a little bit more than that. And so that's all we'd have to take out a circuit would be that much. We could add more of those filter cartridge elements in there real easily.
Right.
That wouldn't be much of a problem. I mean, we could go.
Yeah, if your
ore
gets better or whatever, you could be watching that.
Well, I mean, we might, for example, if we're loading 1.5 cartridges a day, then we could set up a 5 cartridge system.
Right.
And remove
2
cartridge 1 after 1 day, move everything forward, remove cartridge 2 and cartridge 3, which are now in the 1 and 2 slots the next day, and keep moving them forward. And we go to larger cartridge sizes. Yep. We could go parallel systems. There's all kinds of possibilities, but they're all inexpensive and easy to handle. Those carbon columns that we were using at ChemGold, they were on pallets. We used a forklift, and we moved them with a forklift. We literally
pick them up and take them.
It was gravity flow from one to the other. So there's a rack.
Yeah.
I don't know what the height difference is, between 1 and 2 feet between each column. And so you'd fill the top column and it would overflow to the next one and the next one. They had launders built on them. No, it does not restrict the flow, Jeff. We are trying to ascertain if there's a simple method of determining when it's loaded. Now, there's a couple we're working on. Eva could theoretically assay the resin. First of all, it's a destructive test. Secondly of all, it takes hours.
That's the unfortunate part.
Which is undesirable. And it's also relatively expensive. On the other hand, we're also working during the winter when I was over at Lauren's house. We were testing some Eco Goldex solution that I had that had already been assayed. And by using the whatever -3 KD3 indicator solution and a spot plate, we put 1/2 mil in the spot and some KD3 and 1 drop of KD3 and then evaporate it. And we would get a variety of intensities depending upon the gold concentration in solution. Now, we've been doing those tests for the last week, basically, out at the mill. And it looks like we're running into some kind of interference in terms of the color isn't exactly the same. My assumption is it's suspended solids. And so Lauren has graciously allowed me to borrow his centrifuge.
So you can push
It's sitting right there.
Yep.
So we can centrifuge the samples and make sure that all the solids are out. Then she can just take, again, 1/2 mil.
Yep. Drip.
And if you put it under a draft, you can evaporate it in less than an hour.
Okay.
So you're talking a test that would run literally pennies to do.
Right. Versus a complete assay.
And take less than an hour. So assuming that works consistently and reliably, then we will have
a gauge,
a quick, easy way of testing how much is in the solution as it's coming out, as it's going into and coming out of the cartridges.
When to pull it.
And that will tell us when those losses are getting too high. We know when to pull the cartridge. Now, last fall, we loaded to just a shade over 10% gold, according to the solution assays in and out and the estimated volumes in and out. It was a little bit rough, but I think I got it within 10%. Okay.
Okay.
On the other hand, our assaying of the resin has been a lot more variable than that. Okay. It has not been hitting the numbers
that you should
that we're getting.
You should hit.
Not sure what's going on there. It could be the solution assay is not accurate.
Temperature.
Don't know. But
all kinds of.
When we, at the end of the season, the recovery in that first cartridge was way down. Now, this could be because it was loaded all the way and just couldn't recover anymore, or it might have had to do temperature. When we started out this year, temperature seemed to have something to do with things too. So, we've got a lot of testing to do yet to really feel confident we understand exactly what's happening. But we should have a quick and easy field test to give us what I like to call actionable intelligence.
Right.
When you talk in the military, actionable intelligence is that level of knowledge that tells you you can do something in response to it. Okay? You may not know precisely, but you know enough to say, okay, we need to do this action. And so we should be able to do that if everything works as it did previously pretty well.
Right.
And so we're working on that.
And it's all, you're gaining experience through this whole process. That's the cool part.
I'd say we're gaining a lot.
Yep.
I would say Eva is somewhere around my level in the assay field right now because she's been focusing on it so intently. And I didn't know squat about fire assaying and such.
Right.
So she's somewhere at near parity with me, although she knows more than like that. But the way she's going, in a couple of weeks, she'll be significantly ahead of me, and it'll continue going. And I'll say we shall see where it all leads us. But
Sure.
she's making good progress, and I haven't worked on trying to make a similar indicator solution. However, stannous chloride did also work. It did basically the same thing, but it didn't give as intense a result. I would say the color that it resulted with was about 1/3 the intensity of the KD3. And the KD3 is also stable, whereas the stannous chloride tends to kind of, you got to keep some tin in there to keep it up. Maybe add some, hydrochloric acid from time to time, stuff like that. So the KD3 is shelf stable. We bought 1 quart of it for $100. That's a lot of drops.
Yeah, when you're only using just a drop.
Yeah. How many tests is it? Let's see. So quart's about 1 liter. So let's call it 1 liter. So that's 1,000 milliliters times, I think it's 20 drops per milliliter. Okay, so that'd be 20,000 tests. I doubt I'll live that long. Okay. Not trying to be negative about me.
A lot of spot plates.
Let's see, if you did 10 per year, 10 per day, divided by 10, it's 2,000, divided by 3, 2,000, divided by 365. That'd be 5.5 years at 10 tests per day. So
not gonna happen.
Seems unlikely. Yeah. And so that's what we're dealing with right now in terms of trying to refine that. Once we get the assaying standardized and we're confident that it's working consistently, etc., then we can use a direct assay of the resin anytime we want and get it done in basically a shift. If it's routine monitoring stuff and we're just kind of double checking things, then we probably do the smelting and the cupelling one day, part it overnight, and do the final cupel the next day. Would make sense to me. But anyhow, that seems to be a good direct test of the resin itself. And the spot test will give us a way of checking when we need to change out resin cartridges. We're also monitoring the temperature of things. It was kind of interesting. The temperature on that tank, what's 20 C? Because 37 C, 98.6 is hilarious. So let's see. C dash F. Oh, come on. C space 2 space F. Yeah, right there. So you said it started out at 20 that day, little one?
Yeah. I went up to 33.
Okay, so it went from 68 to 98. So it gained 30 degrees that day. Some was solar heating, but not much. Most of that was
cycle. Your friction.
You got 3 1-horsepower pumps.
Moving it.
Running
You're gonna pick up temperature.
And they're being cooled by it too. Yeah. So basically, they are heaters.
Yeah.
And so that, assuming that the kinetics of dissolution are improved by moderate heating, and it isn't hindered at the kind of levels that we might achieve,
right?
That's a good thing. It'll dissolve it faster. By the time we run it through the resin columns, it'll be closer to ambient temperature
Mhm.
because it's first it goes to a pond, then it goes to a tank, then it goes pumps from one tank to another.
Yeah.
So it'll be much closer to room temperature. If we needed to, especially like at the end of the beginning of the season, heat a tank of solution like that before we,
Just have to cycle it.
did it. We got all kind of. I think they have immersion heaters for stock tanks and things like
Yeah.
that too. I think
That's
they make a
interesting.
dissolved oxygen probe for by pH meter. No, I think it's a redox probe. Would that do the job we need? A redox potential? I say so. It's one of those things that we can also throw more oxygen in there pretty easily. It's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
But we'd have to
Yeah,
see.
if you're knocking it down.
Dissolved oxygen probably more so. Okay, we'll worry about it when we graph the results of what we're doing. I say because we're going to be checking the efficiency of the leaching circuit. Dissolving the gold. How good a job do we get done, and how fast does it get done? And then we'll be doing kind of the same thing with the resin absorption. We'll see where we're at.
It'd be interesting to be reading that though to see
Yeah, say if
how much variation in that oxygen level you're getting.
I don't know if it doesn't graph
It's definitely-
smoothly, then it's like, oh, there's some other variable
Right.
involved here.
All right.
If it
That's
graphs,
it's another number you're probably going to want.
hard to tell. That's what we're doing right now. It's all research. Hey, little one, more laboratory stuff.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah. More things to check.
Another
Well, when do
form.
I get my lab coat? I need a lab coat.
Oh boy.
OCD.
Yes.
But anyhow, so I think I'm gonna see if I can have it stitched on there.
Yeah,
Is,
embroidered on.
Eva Lavoisier. Do you know who Lavoisier was?
I've heard the name. But
He was a scientist, I think, in the 1700s, but he was the guy who took chemistry from being qualitative, in other words, you do this and this happens, to quantitative. If you take this much and do that, you get this much. He's the guy who started the measuring everything sort of thing, which is very important.
right.
But I'd say she's like, I want to weigh this and weigh that and weigh the other. And I think you need another period there.
Or why?
I think this is supposed to be analytical.
Yeah.
I think he needs a period there to keep it straight. Because I tell you what, I'm not going to volunteer for what he's got written.
Some more probing. That's accurate, he says. Okay.
You say so.
We're not going to argue it, Chris.
O of her CD. CD, OC. Oh, her OCD. Huh? Okay. I guess so. Sometimes it's rough on her. But anyhow.
Argonauts comment or question there is.
I have no idea if cyanide would be a good stripping solution. Okay. I would imagine you could find a plating house anywhere that would have the kind of permitting that would allow it. Because I mean, plating baths tend to be some pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah.
But on the scale we're using, we can probably do just about anything as long as it's not really bad. Hey,
Hello,
Prospector Phil. So anyhow, I'll say we just got so much stuff to learn and do. It's really fun. Let's see, that would be nose bleed.
Yeah, he does this to himself, we think.
Is that it? That Munchausen's? It was just a really bad nosebleed that would not stop, so they put in an inflatable bladder and inflated it. And it feels like there's an inflatable bladder up my nose. Thank you, everyone, for taking my mind off it for a bit. But anyhow, so say we got a lot to learn, and we're trying to develop everything so it can be done on the cheap, as opposed to the way the big mining companies do it, which is not on the cheap.
No,
You know,
no, they can throw a lot of effort and money at it real fast.
right now I'm running 3 pumps for agitation. It looks like 4 is going to get pretty crowded in that tank. So hopefully 3 should be good enough. I'm still working a bit on that in terms of trying to refine exactly how to align the jets from the pumps and the suspension points from the top to get the action. What I really want is to have that pump kind of sweeping like that,
swimming in there.
yeah, and that would be ideal. The one in the back seems to want to do it. Oh yeah, well that was from Lars from this old mine. Then he made another one for Eva today.
Yeah, we just put this one up tonight.
So there's no question as to who's talking. Wait a minute, she doesn't talk. She pronounces, right?
Yeah,
She makes pronouncements?
I guess so.
Yeah. But anyhow. So I'd say that's what I'm trying to do, is develop a system that's fairly straightforward,
I think
simple.
you're getting closer. I mean, I'm sure a lot of guys are thinking this is getting kind of complicated, but realistically,
Not
it's
compared
not.
to the big boys.
No, it's actually a fairly simple system. It's just the science he's doing to, really get it dialed in.
Once
is
you get
thorough,
you get it down to rules of thumb,
right, then it's
pretty
a
simple.
system.
Yeah. I think it's a CNC router Goldstream, but I'm not sure. Lars, if you're still on, you can tell.
He's getting into the sign making.
Yeah. But I say that's the idea, is to, kind of take you guys on the road while I'm
doing it,
figuring it
Yeah.
all out. Once it's figured out, it should be much simpler than it is now. That's the whole theory.
Well, it'll be a roadmap for anybody literally that wants to do a system like it.
Well, assuming that the ore is amenable,
Right.
and this is one thing.
Well, and that's you're going to have that
but
with
we'll
any
have
mine.
the
is you're gonna-
methodologies to
yeah,
test. Too.
every mine, every ore is going to have its own characteristics that you have to figure out.
Yeah, that's that's what the bottle roll is all about too.
Yep.
The
Simple test, start, see if you can do it.
Goldstream, that'd be good. I got too many other things to worry about right now. And then the CNC plasma cutting too.
That's
got a lot of stuff.
that's where I would like to go with it. But
And
I got a lot of hobbies though, and a lot to get done.
I'm getting old to pick up any more hobbies, man. But the bottle roll is great for an agitation test, simulating an agitation leach, but a column test would be more for either a vat leach or a heap leach.
Mm-hmm.
Which is nothing more than just a piece of pipe. You put the ore in it, you put the solution on top, and get it out the bottom.
Yeah, let it soak for a amount of time.
And that tells you what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I got some pretty good stuff. Oh, my goodness. So anyhow, that's what we're doing. And hope you guys enjoy watching over our shoulders here. Sometimes we don't have a lot to show except frustration, but we're getting there. Man, I got a lot of exercise this week.
No.
I don't know how many times.
Digging will do that to you.
Thank goodness it got.
Wheelbarrows and shovels and pickaxes.
The material got much better once you got down under the topsoil. That subsoil had few rocks, and it had basically the right combination of sand and clay to make a good, easily compactable fill.
Good.
You know, so that came in real handy. Oh, any questions, anybody?
Yeah.
I got a date with a pain pill.
Yeah, that's what I've been going all weekend too. I'm tired.
I'm not
And
that
this
tired.
week was, I don't know.
It's uncomfortable, and you can't take it out.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do with that.
No, it's just going to sit there until a doctor deals with it. Because I mean that if they hadn't stopped the bleeding, it would have eventually been life-threatening. And I mean, by eventually, I mean within a couple hours.
Yeah, they'd have kept going on you though.
It was going pretty fast.
Thanks everybody again for being here tonight.
So
good questions and comments. And
2 drops per second. That's 1 cc per 10 seconds. Is 6 cc's per minute. And 1 unit of blood, it's about 500 cc's. So I've been losing a unit of blood every 83 minutes, roughly.
Yeah, that might have got a little serious.
That could be serious. A refractometer. I'm not sure what that is, Robert.
I want one.
But even once one, she says.
In this situation, I'm not sure that would work.
Oh.
I also want
It
a
measures the
pyrometer.
density of the liquid. It's mainly used in distilling like the sugar or maple syrup or getting the specific beer, getting specific gravity difference.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know in this case if that would work with that chemical or not.
What is a good way to get rid of 50 mesh spent tailings? Well, the question is spent from what?
Yeah, what's
in them?
That's the question.
If it's just a leach tailings, then you can potentially rinse the chemicals out of it and dispose of it if it doesn't have other stuff. But if it's got inherent things in it like lead or arsenic or whatever, which for some reason ore tends to, then you would have a number of regulations to meet. If it was like that ore I was dealing with down in Tucson that was basically all silica with some gold in it. And I mean, it was like 1/3 of an ounce or something, but I mean, it was basically silica. Then you would you could look at anything where somebody needs sand,
right? Yeah,
for whatever,
make another product out of it. Ideally,
yeah, they might blend it into cinder blocks or whatever.
Depending on what's in it, gold miner though, you could put it back in the mine too. You have to know what's in it though before you can figure out how to deal with it.
Well, Argonaut, then I guess I'm a lightweight, and that's okay. Because not everyone can be tough. Some of us have just got to be wussies. Did I see Alan's video on the Gold Router? No, I haven't seen it. I saw the notification, but I've been kind of busy.
Yeah.
50 mesh tailings is probably not going to make a good roadbed material. It's probably going to squish when wet.
Well, if you mixed it with some 3/4 or 1 inch rock, it might bind it up real nice.
You might be able to blend it nicely.
Yeah, blend it nicely with some rock.
It would depend.
Can't go back in the mine. Okay. Well, like we say, the biggest thing is understanding what is in it. I mean, if it's just clean down to basically it's a sand or whatever, and there's no chemical residual or arsenic or something in it, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. So that's where you'd have to see what's in it to see
Well,
whether or
that's
not it's
another
suitable.
idea is, get a small block system set up and make blocks.
I would suggest not using it for playground sand because somebody will
Right.
get upset somewhere and just
Right.
go crazy.
Right.
No matter what the rules are, no matter what the actual hazards are. Where's mine, Chris? He's so thoughtless, I tell you. Here I am, all sick and bungered up.
It should be.
He makes ice cream.
He could be in the background here making it while we're talking.
Laughing at us.
Yeah.
Ha, he says.
Yeah.
But anyhow, yeah, so there's all kinds of possibilities. It also depends on what minerals are there besides the ore minerals. You know, is it mostly silica? Has it got a lot of oh gosh, feldspars in it? Is it limestone? I mean, it's all kinds of questions. So
that's the thing is if you got, some things in there that you don't want to have dumps, in a watershed situation, you got to be careful there.
yeah, absolutely. But there's a lot of things where it might work out just fine. And if somebody needs a bunch of 50 mesh sand and yours will fill the purpose for free, they'd probably be very happy to see it.
Yeah.
You know? But that's what you could look. I know some guy was looking at the tailings dumps at the big copper mines down there by Tucson for something like that, like making some kind of building products. Yeah.
Well, they were trying that even over here at the old smelter here in East Helena, trying to make sandblasting sand out of some of that slag and that, but they had some issues with what was in it.
Yeah.
I think they were doing it at Anaconda also.
How are you set for 1-inch iron pipe, Jim?
I've got some, Chris.
He's got
for legs, or what are you thinking? I do have some 1-inch iron that is actually nice and clean, brand new stuff.
It's obviously for that
It's,
load.
it's for that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, gold miner, you're gonna have to find out what's in it.
And I know I can get more, Chris, so that shouldn't be a problem.
I don't drink. I drink about 1 or 2 energy drinks a day. That's all Roberts. Those would be Rockstar, and they're sugar free. I don't know what I'll say. We shall see what the expert says when he looks up my schnoz over there. Anything else, anybody?
Well, the EU has agreed to ban imports of Russian oil coming by sea, but exempts the pipeline route.
Man.
Intentional pain.
And we can expect more price volatility in the LME metal prices because of critically low stock supplies.
Yeah, I would suspect. I mean, does the EU remind you of
the suicide
girls that are the girls that are out there being promiscuous but trying to convince you that they're not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, it's really a screwed up mentality, if you ask me.
I only do it with guys I really like. How many guys do you really like? Everyone.
Most of them.
Yeah. Wait, we're not gonna get tanker stuff. We're just gonna get the pipeline stuff, which is basically what we got anyway. Yeah, it's hilarious. That's what happens when you try and screw the person that supplies you with necessities. Really?
Uh-oh.
Well, if it was hard rock tailings, it would make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the biggest thing is to figure out what's in it and then build from there. Can you make a product out of it?
I don't know. I know.
And ideally, that would be great for any mining operation if you can create another cash revenue source.
Especially out of a waste product.
Yep.
Once I've got the assaying and the smelting down, my next step is byproduct management. I have ideas.
She has ideas.
Well, she's OCD.
Anyhow.
Well, any other good questions, guys, before we call it a night here?
And thanks again for the sign, Lars.
Yes, that's pretty cool.
The sign is awesome. The
When-
goddess approves.
When did you notice, little one?
Almost as soon as you put it up.
Really?
I was studiously ignoring it because it was
Okay.
not tinfoil hat time.
I
When
know,
I am
but
giving my
we wanted
lab
to get a little
report,
more jive
I
out
am
of
a
you, and we just
scientist.
she went right on
Hey,
by.
excuse me, when I am giving my lab report, I am a scientist. When I put on the tinfoil hat,
Oh,
I become a goddess.
What she says.
yeah.
Especially now when I'm delicate.
Yeah, you better watch out. I might pull that mini tampon you got up your nose.
Ow. Yeah, that made a COVID test seem.
I wonder if that
Pleasant.
would hurt as much as pulling out a catheter with an inflated bulb.
I don't intend to find out. I'm afraid I'm going to find out what this feels like, and that's going to be something I'd rather not.
I'm sure the doctor will numb your nose first.
Did the guy numb my nose before he put it in, little one?
No. I'm just trying to make hopeful noises here.
Oh,
That's right up
That's
there. That's
gotta
a
be
9
an-
or a 10.
that's at least an 8.
What was that?
It's right up there.
Gold Miner says, "Thank you for all the information at the comedy. I hope your nose fares better than your balls."
Well, so do I. I mean, I think at this point he would look a little weird with half a nose. Okay? Just say it.
Sugar is not present. Caffeine definitely is in Rockstar. Yep. And nobody tested blood sugar, but my blood pressure was fine. It was, I don't know, I think about 135 over 95 when I was
Your
at the
blood
hospital.
your blood sugar should be good because you eat a species appropriate diet.
I eat a species appropriate diet. I don't know if that means eating appropriate species or it's an appropriate diet for my species.
As long as it's
Well, your
tasty, right?
pancreas still works.
Yep. Anyhow. So thanks for giving me something to distract me a bit for about 3 hours, folks. I appreciate that. And
There's
Lars
Lars.
says,
He
"You're
is there.
welcome."
He is there in the background.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty good. That was something with TJ or something like that. Yeah, Manscripts, how to never get in trouble with her again. That's pretty funny. That's his actual wife or girlfriend. I forget. I think it's his wife now, but at the time he made it, it might have been his girlfriend. But anyhow, when a woman says this, and a man would normally say this in response, like,
don't say that.
"How does this dress make me? Does this dress make me look fat?" And a normal man would say, "No, not really." "Oh, well, what do you mean?" Instead of this, go to your manuscript and says, "Oh, no, dear, nothing could possibly make you look fat. You are the perfect woman." I haven't done that, Paul. Don't intend to. Sounds about right, Chris.
Oh boy.
Better behave, Kevin. Who's this Kevin guy you're talking about, Paul? Man, she's apparently holding secrets too. Oh, but anyhow. So what's another sign? I don't know. Mine's Aquarius, but whatever. No, not hadn't been a problem. As I say, nose picking, yes, I have in the past, but not especially with this one. Once they did the chemical cautery, they said make sure you don't do that, and I did not. I was just sitting there on the computer this morning, eating my breakfast, listening to the video, and things went south. Yeah, it was not a good thing.
Yeah, he'll survive, guys.
Yeah. Well, I better. Man, that would be really annoying if I didn't. Eva would be, the goddess would be most displeased. So anyhow, okay. Anything else? And thank you, Lauren, for the use of the centrifuge and the blender for now to try those things out. And we'll
That
see
should
what
be
happens.
Interesting.
So I think the centrifuge will work fine. Not sure how well the blender will work, but it'll be an interesting test.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Yeah, Phil, you're welcome. And I'm sure it'll heal up with more or less intervention. But wow, that's complicated, Paul.
Oh man.
Chris, if you want, she can send you pictures of the sink this morning.
Yeah.
Do you want?
Look like a crime scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
all right.
if you want a picture, Chris, just let us know. I can have her send it. It's on her cell phone. Is that? Whoa, you're right. That's pretty serious. I think I'll have to have that removed surgically here.
It's big wad at the end of that thing.
You're welcome, Goldstream. Oh,
Oh boy. It's been fun again, guys. Thank you.
yep. I want a pic of me looped out too, because that means they gave me anesthesia, which I am just fine with.
Yeah, all four.
See, the guy who did the chemical cautery, he stuck a cotton ball soaked in stuff up my nose for a while to kind of numb it and to shrink the blood vessels and stuff. It tasted kind of funny, but that's he wants an audio. Okay.
the real video with sound.
Oh, that was, I must admit, I made a bit of a scene in the emergency room this morning. I was squealing like a stuck pig and cursing. Not like I was trying to keep it under control, but I couldn't. We'll see, Roberts. I've got a lot of outdoor work I do where that just doesn't work at all. Humidity is real high right now, too. But I can guarantee you the humidity was over 53% this morning.
Oh, yeah.
It's been raining for a couple of days.
It's raining out here now.
Has anyone got any clear sky?
Yeah.
Can they take a look and
tonight?
see if the meteors are meteorizing? I'm sure we don't have any.
We don't. I
I'm
don't
wondering
think
how much it's raining out there, but anyone got a view of the sky?
we're not going to see the sky tonight.
Yeah, it's not even dark yet.
Now, yeah, you can feel the moisture.
Let's see. Let's go to this one. And I don't know, maybe they would have it. But yeah, probably not. They're always behind. I don't know. Well, it's clear in Utah. You getting any meteorites? There's a chance of a good meteor shower
Sometime.
even as we speak. And I don't know. Either way, we're going to find out.
No.
The question is, would you rather it not happen or it happened and you missed it all. I guess I'd prefer that it happened because then other people could enjoy it. But man, that would kind of suck. The meteor shower of the century.
And not be able to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the weather had been nice, I was going to stay up on the mountain. I was right up there where you
Sure.
could really see. But
Yeah, that would make
this,
perfect.
This amount of rain is just not making it fun.
Nothing in Arkansas,
So,
little one.
All right. Well,
Doesn't look like it's going to be a wild one, but we'll see what they say in the morning.
hey, Wolfman.
Hey, Wolfman.
Yeah, we're right. We're ready to give it up.
Yeah, we're about ready to hang up the phone here. Now he jumps in on the party line. Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Okay, nosebleed, bad nosebleed. That's the big news of the evening, I guess. I got some kind of a weird bladder-like thing in there that's been inflated through this tube here that's going.
It looks like a tampon for a rabbit.
Yeah. And so, oh, thank you, Chris. So anyhow, quick patch on Memorial Day, and then get to a doctor in the next couple of days for a permanent fix. Yeah, they tried just putting a clamp on my nose for an hour, took it off, and just that didn't work. Did not stop it. It worked as long as the clamp was there.
Yeah.
But that was it. It got pretty ugly. So anyhow, yeah, Eva's got my propofol in there. Absolutely. Oh, okay. Do you have any questions real quick, Wolfman?
Anybody going once?
Yeah. Well, if you can't see anything from the living room window, then it's probably not strange. I think if it's 40 per second, it wouldn't matter what direction you looked at, but I don't know what the radiant is. That's the point in the sky they all seem to be coming from. Yeah. A few flicking around. Oh, Hercules. Thank you, Paul. I'll be fine, I'm sure. I've beaten a whole lot worse than this. It's just annoying the crap out of me. I hope I call the doctor and they go, yeah, come right on in. We'll get it fixed up. Instead of, we're kind of busy this week. Have you thought of July?
Yeah. Get you in 3 weeks.
Yeah. At least, as long as they don't try and send me to Benefice Hospital up there in frickin' Great Falls. Jeez. Those guys. Ridiculous. Anyhow.
Yeah.
There's not going to be much in the way of surgery. I presume it's going to be get everything ready, pull this thing out, look in there, and go.
Burn it.
Then there'll be a little screaming and thrashing.
Well, you see, I told him we could get the car battery and hook it up to a nice deal skewer, and then I could just fish it around in his nose and kind of swirl it in there. He didn't like this idea.
I prefer just taking a big gun and going zap and then just sticking the wire up there. But yeah. Anyhow, so that's the basic situation here. And I hope you guys who can see get to see a good show tonight. But I think we're going to call it a night. Yeah, something like that. They're looking like 40 per second possible. Yep.
Starting at 10 p.m. Pacific.
Yep. You take care, Wolfman.
Yeah.
You can always look at the replay. All righty.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
You take care. Happy
Good night,
prospecting,
everybody.
and keep it safe out there. Oh my God.